I watch this as an adult as a podcast where we reminisce about movies from our childhood, and we see if it still holds up, or we just say, I used to watch this crap. Check out the podcast to see what we say. Peace.
The development of Alien 3 is long and legendary, beginning with famed cyberpunk writer William Gibson being hired to write a two-part Cold War metaphorical war film about the duplicitousness of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. Director Rennie Harlin was attached to this iteration. After that, a writer named David Twohy was brought on to change the story and move away from the Cold War communism allegory, since the fall of communism made this plot less relevant. He removed Weaver's Ripley character and changed the setting to a prison planet where nefarious experiments with aliens were taking place. Harlan, growing tired of development hell, walked off the project. A director from New Zealand named Vincent Ward was enticed to consider directing Alien 3. He developed his pitch on his flight to Los Angeles, and upon pitching it to Fox, he was hired as the director of Alien 3. While Vincent Ward's ideas, such as setting the movie on a monk-dwelling planet made entirely of wood, seemed exciting and different, ultimately they were considered too expensive to create. With that, Ward was fired and replaced by acclaimed music video director David Fincher, who at the time had never directed a feature film. The final product of the movie turned out to be a hodgepodge of all the ideas combined into one. Infamously, David Fincher abandoned the film in post-production, citing too much studio interference. It is considered a lesser film than the previous two and is criticized mainly for its dire and dreary tone, as well as for making the decision to kill off the beloved characters from the previous film, Hicks and Newt. Several years later, an assembly cut of the film would be released, showcasing many completely new or alternate scenes. While this version of the film was much better received by fans, it still received similar complaints. Whether you love it or hate it, you're here for one reason and one reason alone, and that is to find out what we thought of this movie. We watched the third movie in the Alien franchise of films. This is 1992's David Fincher classic, Alien 3. This is a show about franchises. Science fiction movie franchises. You're listening to License to Watch.
Game over, man. It's game over.
Why in the world was this movie made?
All right, here we are. This is our long-awaited Alien 3 episode, which, you know, when we first started this podcast, people said to me, hey, you dumb fuck, are you ever going to do Alien 3? And I was like, whoa, calm down, guys. We just started this podcast. We'd have to cover the first two Alien movies at least before then, but we'll get to it. And they, you know, they were seething, but they should be sated now at this point.
The public outcry has been
is finally here.
Pretty crazy, you know, for the demand for this episode.
Yeah, that same guy called me a day later and was like, I just thought of something, you fucking asshole. Are you going to do the assembly cut too? And I was like, whoa, buddy. Don't worry. We're going to watch both versions of the movie so that we can discuss the merits of each and the downfalls of each, if any, if we could find any.
I mean, they are both perfect films, technically.
Yeah. Much like the Alien, this movie is a perfect living organism.
Yeah. Where should we begin?
Well,
there's so much to cover. Well, I guess
wait.
First thing we should say.
Go. I was just going to say.
I was just going to introduce our guest.
Oh yeah, we should definitely do that.
Yeah.
What? No,
so our guest,
don't worry about it. Just let's launch into the perfect films.
Like, what music is that I hear? I hear some music. Is that? Oh my God! Sean Jarrett's coming down the ramp.
He's back.
The listeners can't see
I like
it.
that the final countdown is
listeners can't see it, but I was doing a very awesome wrestling walking to the ring dance there.
Yeah. A lot of
Strumming my guitar and,
wild
shooting
arm
rockets.
flailing.
Yeah. I was shooting a
There
few
were half-naked
rockets,
women around you dancing wildly.
as is per usual, but I mean, in this case, it was for my introduction. But
yes, it is a Sunday.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Should the audience know that? Does that take away the illusion? Like,
I mean, it could be any day, but for us, it's Sunday.
well, for whatever reason, I thought that they didn't want to know that it was Sunday specifically. That we weren't good church going guys. That we weren't like worshiping at the altar of the Lord. Just like the people in this movie.
Maybe we did that already. We might have done that this morning, and now we've got the half naked women and the rockets shooting out of the whatever
The crotch.
The crotch.
You mean you don't worship at the altar of David Fincher?
Oh yeah, no, big Fincher guy. I have my statue for him like right over here. It's very
Made out of gum.
Yeah, very.
It's taken years to build.
Yeah.
You know what I say? If you're in a pinch, call for the Finch.
Oh my God.
I think he did, yeah.
So what I wanted to do just off the bat, because I know we're going to get into it, but just a straw poll of the room.
Is this David Fincher's best movie? Everyone's hands are up. Everyone's hands are up, ladies and gentlemen.
No, assembly cut or theatrical, which I know they're very different. And they both have merits and failings, but do we have a consensus about which one is actually the superior film?
Assembly.
Well, you just like anything that's long, that's way too long. That was which you were like, it's only 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
It's not actually that long, but it is almost that long.
It's 2.5. Yeah.
I want to say Assembly is better, but there are parts, like I was watching the theatrical one, which I hadn't seen in a while. I've actually familiarized myself more with the Assembly cut of late. And in watching the theatrical, I was like, this is a pretty tight movie, like especially the beginning. It like gets going, it throws you right in there, and it's like, and then you watch the Assembly in comparison, and it like kind of drags a little bit in the beginning, and you're like, okay, he's on the beach, he sees the ship in the water, it's like he's running back with her. Like in the theatrical version, it's just like they got her already. They're like inside her EEV, and they're excavating it or whatever, Yeah, I don't know. I think each one has merits, but I think I have to go with Assembly cut is better for me.
So that's 2 for Assembly.
I'm definitely going to go Assembly. However, I'm a big fan of both these movies. I could watch a third version. I know there are other versions out there. Bring on the super mega extreme Assembly and I'll watch it.
Yeah, I guess I'll go with the Assembly cut too, although I have to confess, I did not watch it in one sitting. I had to watch it over. I actually had to technically watch it over 3 different sittings. I watched like an hour and a half an hour, 40 minutes, whatever it is. It was one of those things that I don't know if I could sit through it. And it was like The Irishman or Blade Runner 2049 that I really felt like the only way to actually, for me to watch it was to treat it like a mini series and just tune in little chunks at a time. It is way too slowly paced. But also, it really annoyed me when I watched the theatrical, having not seen it in a while, and having watched the Assembly. It really annoyed me how many plot points and interesting things that I love in the Assembly just aren't in the theatrical at all. Like the crazy guy, Golik, who just disappears. He doesn't even die. The last time we see him, he's in the infirmary locked up. And then they just never mention him again. And it's like, wow, that wasn't a plot thread that we thought we needed to address, but they just wanted to cut out the thing where they trapped the alien, which I don't even understand because I thought that was cool. But
yeah, and the assembly answers like a lot of the because I watched them theatrical Assembly back to back. I mean, within 24 hours, and I remember I've seen this movie a bunch of times and always had a bunch of questions about it, and the Assembly just like answers so many questions that I had.
Not all of them, probably.
Not all of them. Though.
It
at the same time.
At
the same time, still being really confusing and deeply flawed, but better. But I like them both, like I said.
And I actually love the slow beginning of this movie. I think that's one thing that I wouldn't have changed because I love I like the images of the planet and I like seeing outside and all the guys coming to, schlep the ship in and find the survivors, and how he finds Ripley on the beach and he goes running back with her in his arms and his coat's all flapping and everything. I thought, all that stuff, I was like, when I was watching that, I was like, holy shit, I haven't seen the assembly cut often enough because I didn't remember any of that, and I was like, oh yeah, this is fucking gold.
All right, here's the real question. Are you guys ox men or dog men? Ox or dog?
Ox, all the way.
Yeah, it's got to be the ox, because one of my biggest complaints about this film has always been like, I just can't watch that dog die. I just can't. Yeah. It's like the little girl, I have no problem with. I'm like, yeah, let's crack open her ribs and see her organs. No big deal. It's like, whatever. She was kind of annoying anyway in the second movie.
Mostly.
It sucks. I'm mostly annoying. Mostly. Yeah. I agree. I don't like the fact that she died, because it does render so much of the second movie just completely moot.
That's what everyone hates, right? That's like the big beef with this whole movie is like the first thing anyone who doesn't like about this movie says is like, don't they kill the girl in the beginning?
Yeah, but I think also, I don't know, are these really, I know these are technically part of a franchise and they're technically a continuous story with Ripley being the bridge between them, but aren't all these movies kind of standalone films? Like, there isn't any connective tissue between any of them except for Aliens and Ripley. They're kind of isolated stories. They all take place in different locations. The first two probably have the biggest connection, but even they are sort of very, like, not forget about the fact that they switch genres. It's just, they definitely jump to a different story, a different version of a story where a woman's going out with space marines, as opposed to space truckers being attacked, as opposed to a prison planet, trying to survive, as opposed to fucking space pirates or whatever the fourth one is about.
She doesn't go out with space marines. That sounds like it's some kind of like romantic movie.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it a little in the end?
It's an urban legend about Ripley. But
I looked at him and he said, "Game over, man." And I knew that the game was over for me. All the games were over for me.
I mean, just like Terminator 2, right? Like, James Cameron nailed it like both times. He escalated what was already a great movie, like, perfectly. And yeah, they're pretty standalone-ish. You could argue that they're different flavors from the same, I don't know, type of main protein or whatever you want, crappy analogy you want to come with. But like, it escalates the first movie perfectly, whereas this deflates a lot of stuff, takes it down, makes it slower, makes it more sad and depressing, but still kind of works.
But whenever I watch the second movie, I'm never like, oh, it's so sad that Newt and Hicks die. Like, that's not, it just doesn't seem like it's, I'm never thinking about what their future is, because that's a totally different movie.
See, I'm completely
Newt and Hicks. Which one is Newt and Hicks?
Newt Hicks. Newt Hicks sounds like a Southern politician. I'm Newt Hicks, and I'm running for state senate.
He's right.
I'm Newt and Hicks, the Texas Hammer.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, you meant Newt and Hicks.
Yes, Newt and Hicks.
Got it. Okay.
As opposed to Hicks and Newt, who's also running for state senate and thinks
Hicks
Newt
and
Hicks is a son of a bitch.
Yeah, but he's the Democrat. Speaking of how we watched the assembly cut, I feel like I watched it the best way. I watched it like during the day, from the beginning until right before the scene when she tells Charles S. Dutton that the alien won't kill her because she's got the baby in her. And then I went out and I like got drunk and smoked weed, and then I watched the rest of it and I was like, man, this movie is fucking awesome.
But to be fair, you could have watched like the main menu of the DVD screen and still thought it was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
This is great.
I love the part I watched like is the most geographically confusing, but I like really didn't care at that point, because like that's when they're all running around shutting the doors, and it's like I'm not sure what the shape of this building is at all, or like which direction they're running in relation to each other, but it's working for me.
It's a dodecahedron shaped tunnel complex.
Yeah, isn't it like an inverted pyramid with hallways or something? It's
like an inverted nipple, I think.
Yeah, with like a with a big piston shaft train thing that runs through it.
Yeah, and they seem as confused about the geography as I do. They keep on talking about how they might get lost, and they don't seem sure of where they are or where they're going at any time. And I'm like, wait, don't you guys haven't you lived here for decades? What is?
I don't know. That makes sense to me because they're most of those prisoners. They're not at peak mental functioning capacity.
That is true.
And this place seems like an endless labyrinth of post-industrial waste, crazy. The sets are the best. The production design is amazing. I don't think you can deny that.
Well, one thing I want to say before we get into the production design and all that stuff is that I think this movie gets a lot of flack, and I think really it is a good movie. It's very detailed. It looks great. It's it's a vibe, if you were to go see this movie and it was the first of its, it wasn't a sequel, you would probably think this is a great movie. It's it's bleak, sure, but it's about these people, at the ass end of the world, like they say, they're the forgotten people, and it's their chance to redeem themselves, to save. I mean, they don't save anyone. Everyone dies. Yeah,
they kill the
try,
alien.
and that's what.
Yeah,
they kill the alien. Yeah, they save the world, I guess, by not letting the company get the alien.
Yeah.
But this is a good movie. It's even though the final version, the final product of this movie is the studio putting it together. To me, it doesn't feel. It's not a bad movie where you're watching it and going oh my god, this is so bad. This isn't Jaws 4. Right. This is
it's not a cash grab.
It's not a cash grab. It actually feels pretty artful. It's kind of like an artsy movie in a lot of ways. I think really the only reason that this movie gets the shit that it does is because it followed up Aliens, which is such a hopeful and fun ride of a movie, and it just simply was not, I think, what people were expecting. And now 20, 30 years later or whatever, this movie still is not considered a classic. People always say oh, I love the first two Alien movies, but the last two can take a hike. So I guess I'm realizing that this movie doesn't stand the test of time, and I only like it, or we only like it because of I don't know, nostalgia or something. We watched it as kids.
No, screw the naysayers. Fuck them. Fuck those people.
But I think also it's because what this movie's just bleak. It's just sad. Yeah. It's just she everyone is angry,
covered
or
in lice,
dirty looking. Yeah, covered in lice,
blood and gross stuff. Everyone
and giant lice too. These lice are roly poly cockroach sized lice.
Yeah. If you have lice like this, you're definitely getting sent home from school. No hesitation.
Yeah, you shouldn't be able to see lice from 8 feet away.
Never good.
I think you nailed it though. I think it's mostly the comparison to the first two movies, especially Aliens, which is arguably the greatest sequel ever made, or the greatest action movie ever made. It's really hard to top that. It's just not easy. It wasn't going to be better. This is my least favorite of the 4 Alien movies, and I think it's a really good movie. I think it's a fun movie that if this was the only one, it would be a movie that I really enjoyed and would be oh, you've never seen Alien 3? It's a standalone film with no other movies attached to it, but you should see it because it's amazing.
Having said all that, though, I feel yes, well, I keep saying this movie is bleak, but I feel their instincts to take the story where they did and kill her by the end of the movie and have it be a finite 3 movie thing, I think those instincts were correct. And I feel I don't know, in 2020 hindsight, I don't know if they stuck the landing. Most people don't think, obviously they don't think of it as a trilogy because they made another one after this, but excluding that one,
which was the smartest decision they ever made,
I guess. We'll talk about that.
But I don't know if I agree. I kind of feel this, especially the theatrical cut, I feel that's the ending for me, and everything after is just, fan theory and expanded stuff. Just I feel the other ones are kind of more cash grabby. But
I like the fourth one because, in my opinion, Sigourney Weaver can do no wrong. In my opinion, there is no Dana, only Zool.
Well, I think the
fourth one's fine. It's fine for what it is.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll talk about more about the fourth when we talk about the fourth one.
So rather than be rather than just like espouse IMDb trivia, let's just kind of briefly go over what we know about the making of this movie. So, I mean, they wanted to make a third one after Aliens. They went back and forth with a couple of different scripts. They were all in agreement that everyone wanted to differ from the first two movies enough to warrant a sequel. They didn't want to retread the same kind of thing, have it be like her and the Marines versus the aliens again. And so kudos to them for coming up with this like inventive kind of different story where she's stuck on a prison planet or whatever. It's different enough that you can clearly differentiate now between the three movies. I'm not including Alien Resurrection yet because at this time it hasn't been made.
I think what this movie does well in a way that kind of didn't work out in its favor is the first Alien movie. It gives us like a really scary monster. Not only can this thing kill us in a bunch of ways and it's indestructible, it also like uses our bodies to gestate its spawn. So like the combination of those things is all really scary. And the second one kind of leans more into the fact that like whatever this organism is just like really overpowering. Even Space Marines can't fight it, right? This one is leaning into the other side of what's scary about it, is the fact that like it makes you confront the value of your own mortality by saying, well, if this thing is like using humans to make more of itself, then that means we might have to kill someone. Like not just kill the alien, but kill a person, you know. And then this one leans way more into that, like the ethics and morality of that, taking basically like forgotten lives that have been like isolated, like marooned on a planet because they're like not useful to society. They're like antithetical to society, and so like their lives are no good anymore. But they're not killing each other, even though they're all killers. And then she's like, oh, like, I have the alien inside me. You have to kill me. And the guy's like, I don't think I should kill you. Not yet, anyways. And that's, like, a really interesting, like, philosophical part of the whole alien lore.
I'm sorry.
But it is depressing, you know?
I lost Colin's train of thought there for a while. Anyways, I don't know what Colin was saying, but it sounded about appropriately muddled for this movie's philosophical take on the alien thing. Because I think that's I think this movie has two big failings in any version you watch. One is I think they had a lot of big philosophical ideas, and they really didn't nail any of them. They circled them without actually hitting any of them. And the other thing is I think they tried to go back to the sort of the first movie's version of being stalked by a creature that seems to, be unkillable and also be able to pop up at any place at any time, and kind of the tension and surprise that renders. And yet they did it in a much bigger environment with much more people and fewer characters that we understand or care about. And a lot of the scenes, they tend to go for jump scares rather than the tension of somebody being stalked and alone in a place. And I just didn't find, this is probably, I think, the least scary of the first three movies for me, because I feel like a lot of these sequences just aren't that tense, and a lot of the moments when the alien attacks, it kind of just comes out of nowhere quickly, and you don't have that anticipation of, oh no, this person's in danger. You just sort of have, oh shit, there's the alien, and it got him.
This brings to mind one of my favorite parts. When the alien comes out of the ox, and then when it runs away, it makes that little noise, and that little noise is like, at times funny, but at times like way more chilling and cringe than like almost anything I could imagine. It's a very weird mixture. It's a very unique sound.
Can you do the sound?
I knew you were gonna ask that. It's like or something like that.
It's kind of like a high pitched yabba dabba doo.
Yeah. If I had my eyes closed, I think I'd be watching Alien 3 based on what I just heard. But there's a couple. I mean, so the how it pertains to like the alien themes of the first two movies. I mean, one of my bigger complaints about the film, especially the theatrical one, is it's not necessarily about anything. Like there's no themes that come up. The assembly one, I actually found this theme of faith was much more prevalent. There's a lot more praying. It is, you could tell it's stuff that, like, when you're watching it, you're like, this should probably be cut. This should probably be cut. Like, how many times we got to pray? But it does help hammer home, you know, Ripley has to show faith in the doctor. They have to show faith in her. She has to basically take a leap of faith at the end and kill herself. She has to decide whether or not she's going to trust Bishop 2 at the end. I mean, there's all this stuff about trust and faith. The big theme of Alien, for me, has always felt like you're in a hopeless situation. Like, once I think Ash gets the alien on his face, like, can we get it off? Can we pull it off? No, we can't. Can we cut it off? No, it's got acid for blood. You're screwed, like, in this horrible situation. The second one is kind of like, well, we're in this horrible situation, but there's this girl here, so we have to figure it out. This one, by killing all the characters off in the first place, you're like, there's nothing really to fight for. There's like, what's the point of survival?
A higher power,
So,
a cause greater than yourself. It's the first movie where survival isn't the point of the movie.
Yeah, she's trying to die. I mean, by the time, I mean, in either cut, after the first 30 minutes, you're like, where are the suicide pills? Like, this is depressing. And I kind of hated watching the theatrical cut after 30 minutes, but then it reminded me of all the reasons why I liked it. But it's not about hope. It's just about horror and managing that and figuring out, you know, we're going to die. There's really nothing to fight for. So what's the point? I don't know where I'm going, but that's kind of the feeling when people talk about this movie being bleak. I mean, that's kind of the feeling that it elicits. This is a bleak, crappy, dirty, gross, nasty situation, and that's this film in so many ways.
But they do win. They win, technically, on a technicality.
Yeah, it's trying to say, like, these guys have been mistreated and thrown away, basically, to rot and die in this place. No one cares about them and stuff. And then it's like, yeah, they're thrust into this horrific situation, like you said, and then it's like, okay, like, we've been mistreated, like, you know, is it worth it for us to, like, save the world, essentially, and prevent this company from getting this alien and turning it into a bioweapon, and, like, ultimately it would get the better of us and destroy the world? Like, is that on us now to prevent that from happening? Like, why should we? You know, like, we've been mistreated, or we've been treated like shit. Like, shouldn't we just, like, not give a fuck? Let her be frozen in the ship and, like, you know, be taken? But no, but they decide to do it, I guess.
He goes further. He goes further to say that, like, the outside world doesn't even really exist to us anymore, you know?
Right.
There's a whole conversation that she has with Charles Dutton, who I think is awesome in this movie.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think she's really awesome in this movie too, by the way, which I guess goes without saying, but, like, I mean,
yeah, you gotta like Ripley, believe it or not.
Okay, that one got me.
Harris is hurt.
All right.
Harris is injured.
Because we always do, why don't we just quickly go through the cast of familiar faces and say, like, where they're all from and what we know them from. Okay. So Charles S. Dutton, obviously. We
Rudy.
The alien we know is from an egg, and it bursts a face hugger.
The alien, the alien's from an egg, which is then in a person's face, which is then in a person's guts, which then becomes a dog, which then becomes a dragon.
Yes. Harris, I don't know about you, but I think you might have, and I know I have met the guy who's in the alien suit.
Tom Woodruff Jr.
Woodruff, yeah. Nice guy.
Yep.
How'd you meet him?
We met him at USC on a field trip in our 507 class. Stu took us to his workshop, which is, where was that again? Was it Burbank?
It is up in the San Fernando Valley, kind of near. I'm forgetting the town, but it's very well known for porno.
Oh, I was going to say it's near where they shoot porn somewhere.
But the name of the company is Amalgamated Dynamics, and it's Tom's studio, and this is one of his first big films, I feel like.
Yep.
Because they were going to get Stan Winston to do this, and he wasn't available. And Tom Woodruff has done some incredible practical effects, and I mean, I think the practical stuff here. This is a little bit hard to say. Some people will be like, "Oh, CGI is really bad in this movie." When you see the alien, you're talking about when it bursts out of the ox. Anytime you see the alien in a full shot, it's like, "Oh, bad CGI." Well, it's not CGI. It's a puppet that they composited into the
It's
scene.
bad. It's bad compositing, is what it is.
Yeah, it's bad. But the close-ups of the alien and Tom's performance is insanely good. And, and I mean, to me, this is like, I think this one and the first one are the most effective visions of the alien that we get.
I'll go even further and say, in the first one, for me, it feels like a guy in a suit. Like when he reaches out like this in that one shot, it just feels like they were like 1, 2, 3, reach, because he could barely hear probably. Whereas in this one, I feel like the acting that the guy in the suit does, it feels alien. It feels like a creature. The way he whips around and
it's insane.
They did a really good job animating it.
And you're right. There's something about the arm grabs, especially how they hold the arms out in the first one, that seems very mannered and acted and less like an animal and more like a guy in a suit. And this one, they do a nice job of seeming like feral and very
I think a good example is when it punches through the little glass window in the door, and that one part, like in the first movie, that's like really similar to like what the alien does, what we're talking about, where it kind of reaches out its arm. But even that one thing, it's like there's something a little bit less human about it, the way it's punching
or when
through
she's
the glass.
fighting it and she backs it into the corner, and it's there was a lot of good stuff on the alien acting, and he's got the suit of this and several other famous movie creatures just sitting in his standing in his lab, so it's a pretty cool place to visit.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's so cool. I'm so jealous. I would love to. I actually, after I watched this movie, I went to the Amalgamated Dynamics website, and I was like, "Are they hiring?" I want to be a guy in an alien suit so badly.
I think that would be hilarious.
What creature would you have popped out of? I'm wondering.
Oh, probably a rhino or something really big enough to get me in there. Like that scene from Ace Ventura.
I was gonna say that.
Someone should do a fan edit of this movie where they cut that scene into the cremation of Newt and Hicks instead.
Oh my god.
So back to our cast. We have Charles S. Dutton, who we know from the TV show Rock, obviously. He was also in a movie called Rudy, I guess, which we've covered on our Patreon account. We have Tywin Lannister.
Yes, Tywin Lannister.
Charles Dance. Yep, he's also from Last Action Hero.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, he's awesome in that. He's always awesome.
He is always awesome.
Yeah.
How many different glass eyes does he have in Last Action Hero? Like 5, 6 different glass eyes? He's so good.
A few. And he actually had his eye removed to play that part. He was that committed to that. He was just dedicated.
He also had the alien actually kill him in this movie.
That's
really dedicated.
He's a method actor.
He was resurrected, much like Alien Resurrection, for further movies.
They cloned him.
They have test tubes full of half-formed Charles Dances somewhere.
Ooh, I want to see that.
Well, when he wanted to get the eye removed, there was a big fight with the studio because they weren't sure about the optics.
Very good.
It's a topic that they didn't like to dance around.
Because his name is Dance.
Yeah.
I actually think so. This is like one of the rare. I mean, in the performances I've seen of this actor, like he's always a villain, and in this one he's not. He's like a sympathetic character, and I think he does a great job. I really like one of my big beefs with this movie is that I tend to like that character, and I like his whole story and the way he
and Ripley totally fucks him
with her. Yeah, and she fucks him.
Literally, but then also figuratively by just keeping him in the dark when he's begging her. He's begging her let me help. And she's like, nope, it's a secret. I can't tell you. And we never know why. Like in no cuts do they explain why she's so reluctant to just be like, yeah, there might be a giant monster, on the planet hunting us.
I find it surprising. I find it surprising how low key he is the morning after they've had sex, because I'm under the impression he hasn't had sex in like multiple decades now, and Sigourney Weaver's good looking and everything, and like I think he would have woken up like a little bit more
like whistling and zippity doo.
Yeah. Man, I'm having a great day.
I feel like it was a very British way. He was like, "Oh, thank you for. I appreciate your physical comforts and whatever." He's got such a weird way of thanking her for boning him.
Well, there is no one right way, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I imagine that went pretty quickly on his part. There's a lot of built up little Charles Dances in there.
Yeah.
Who else? We have Ralph Brown, who plays 85. We know him. Obviously, we know him from Paul Schrader's classic film Dominion, prequel to The Exorcist, where he plays Sergeant Major Harris. He is also Del Preston, the roadie superstar in Wayne's World 2.
Oh,
that blew my mind when I found that out.
Yep.
'Cause I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Del Preston is the best. That's his best role. Yeah, that was better than 85.
I had to
beat him to death. His own shoes.
All right, you got there before I did.
Perhaps that's
much like Charles Dance.
Yeah.
That's good. Good callback.
Thank you.
We got, I don't know if any of you guys watched Mindhunter on Netflix, but the main guy from that, Holt McCallany, I think is how you say his last name. He's the teardrop guy. He's got the teardrop tattoo.
Right, so a guy who in the theatrical cut you would have no idea, like another character who just sort of vanishes, disappears.
Yeah, gets killed off screen in the theatrical cut.
Wait, isn't he the rapist in the...
Yes, he is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's his big scene in the theatritrical one.
Charles S. Dutton bludgeons him with a lead pipe and doesn't really cause much damage somehow.
Yeah, you see the guys, they all have bandages on their head. So everyone has a bandage on their head, has had their brains beaten in with a crowbar, but that's all, you just put some bandages on it, you're fine.
Exactly.
It's how do you beat someone with a crowbar in that way without, like, causing at least one death? You know?
Full on, like, full body, Hulk smash swings with this crowbar against men who are, like, laying on the ground incapacitated, and somehow they all survive.
It's an extra Y chromosome, I guess.
Yeah. This is something I was thinking about. We've got a prison movie. There's no, like, workout guy. There's no guy who's just constantly working out. It's a prison.
Hey, bro, need a spot? Need a spot?
Right.
Bro, can I get a spot?
But I guess this prison is just that, like, dirty and nasty and weird, and like I think a lot of them are really committed to the whole like religious cult thing they're doing. But
the most unrealistic thing about this prison planet is there is no gym.
Yeah.
And Charles Dutton looks like he's been eating pretty well, considering like they're out there in the ass end of space in their own words. I mean, you kind of alluded to it, Matt, but like there is a lot of scripts that went into this thing, and one of them was that this was a planet of monks instead of prisoners, and this feels like a lot more like monk guys than prisoners. I mean, you're never really super afraid of any of these guys. They're just kind of, especially in the theatrical cut, just a cadre of British bald guys.
I think the guy who breaks out of the infirmary and then frees the alien is scary, because when he's like going mad.
Yeah, Gallic.
Yeah, but that's in the assembly cut. So in the theatrical, like, that doesn't happen.
Well, that's why the theatrical cut sucks.
and that actor that's Paul McGann, who is
Paul McGann
became Doctor Who later. Yep.
Really? I find it weird that, like, you know how he gets sprayed with blood from watching the alien murder someone and then he runs away? They don't wipe any of that blood off of his face, and they don't let him do it either.
I feel like he's into it.
I think the wipes were all coming on the next shipment, so they have like
right, yeah,
they ran out.
Yeah, so there's a lot of probably dirty butts there on that planet too, I imagine.
Yeah. Well, they talk about how he smells earlier in an earlier scene before the alien is wreaking havoc.
It's true.
He was not popular.
He's doing the wreaking.
Yeah.
Yep.
So just going off of what you said, Sean, that they were supposed to be monks originally. They had already started constructing massive sets of like churches and like stained glass windows and cathedrals. Yeah. And so then when they changed it, they were like, we have these giant, $1 million sets. What do we do? And they were like, spin them around. We'll turn them into something else. And that's literally like what the sets are in this movie. That big like. I don't know what you call it, that giant room that they're in when they're all on different like levels.
The assembly hall or something like that.
Yeah, like that are those cathedrals like turned around.
Wow.
And so like they're sitting on those pipes and stuff. Like those pipes lead to like windows, I think, on the other side that we never see.
But especially once, I will say that once it gets into the very brown element of this, so like you notice that like at least 75% of the movie is brownish red.
I think it's orange.
Orangish, sure.
Yeah.
Some people
that was
brownish red could also be orange.
Yeah. True. That was always my memory of this
Depends
movie.
on what cut you're watching.
Like I watched the theatrical version on TV or a movie channel or rented it or something like back in the day. I don't really remember when, but I had seen it. But like my memory of it was like that one's just like orange, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's
all
my,
I can. That's all I could remember.
That's my overwhelming memory too. But it is just the foundry. Those are the foundry
Right.
scenes are the orange ones, and we're only there. Yeah, I mean we're probably there about half the movie, half the regular theatrical cut movie. So, but the rest of it is actually pretty blue. Which you're right. I totally forget that because I think you've got daylight coming in everywhere else. The foundry is at a lower level, but this is all part of the David Twohy script that got turned into a Vincent Ward script. Because I think David Twohy was the first one who said to do a prison planet or a prison ship, and then Vincent Ward was the director they brought on originally, or maybe he was the replacement for Rennie Harlan. But I think Rennie Harlan.
I think Rennie Harlan turned it down, and they came with this guy Vincent Ward, who might be most famous in America for doing What Dreams May Come.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts working with this dude named Fasano, and the two of them come up with this script where. So basically, he hated the script. I mean, you could hear this interview with him if you listen to a Projection Booth podcast. But to distill it, he hated the script, and he rewrote it on the flight from New Zealand to L.A. And the craziest thing about this script to me is that the idea was to convert this whole planet was made entirely of like wood. So they're going to be on a planet made up entirely of wood. If you can sort of even picture what that would be, and
I'm sorry. So like not a forest planet, but a planet made of wood.
I know at first when I heard it, it was like, oh, a planet of woods, and they're like, no, dude, a planet of wood,
like a Death Star, but made out of like Home Depot 2x4s.
Is that it? I always imagined that it was like a planet of like Earth, like crust and dirt. But then upon that planet, like these people only had wood to build things. They didn't have metal.
Maybe
or whatever.
it's that, but I don't know. But because
it always sounds like they're talking about it like it's like this, like a planet of metal and iron and rock and stuff, except everything is made out of wood.
Right.
Like it's because it's supposed to be like they're monks populating this place, and they've taken a vow to not use technology. So the only technology they have is like wood. So they create their planet out of like the old-fashioned way. And I have the same problem I think the studio eventually had, because they greenlit this several steps along the way, and then somebody was like, yeah, I don't believe a planet of wood. and then
right.
Nor
when
can
they told
we
him
figure
that,
out how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And then when they told Vincent Ward that, he was like, well, it's a planet of wood or I'm out. And they were like, okay.
And they were like, you're out.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's like, how some of those trees have the roots that go, like the roots really spread out on the ground beneath them, to where like you can be walking on just tree roots and not on actual ground, but you're standing on the ground. Maybe it was something like that, where it's like the tree roots actually become the surface of the Earth's crust, as well as the trunk parts also come out of them.
And then the
maybe
crust
something like that
floats into space, and it's just tree root planet now.
Now,
well, then the mantle is made of like something else, and then it gets like
it's all
magma.
wood, Colin. Wood all the way down. It's wood
all the way down.
Or I walk.
Yeah,
the problem with this with this idea is that like an alien, a xenomorph showing up on this planet is no big deal. But if some termites show up on this planet, it's an apocalypse.
Yeah.
But what they ended up with, to me, feels very Fincher-like, especially, because I used to love his Express Yourself Madonna video, and I was always loved that factory setting that he created for that, and I was, always thinking like, oh, this should be a movie, and you kind of get it with this movie, with this very industrial setting.
I agree. Like the setting of this movie, although it is confusing, like it's really, I don't understand how big this place is or what the shape of any of these rooms are built. Some of the rooms that they're in, I still don't understand what the shape of the room actually is. In the that are like the whole room is on screen. It's a wide shot, and I'm still like, what is the shape of this room? But that doesn't matter. Like it's just so cool, and like it seems like so endless and like decaying from like, I guess there were once like millions of people on this planet, or at least thousands, right? And now there's 26 or something, and it's
I
crazy.
think
and
they said it was a
that
colony
whole...
of 500 at one point.
Really?
Yeah.
It seems bigger, but it's just...
I think they said more. I think they said 5,000.
Oh, really?
Okay, yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Like, thousands of people lived in this thing, and now only, like, 20. And so, yeah, there's whole, sections that they've never even really been in. They don't have to go. Why was that guy even, like, shoveling the tube? The first guy who gets killed? Like,
Well, I
how
think
does that
he was.
help them?
I think he was getting the mold out, from what I gathered. There's a lot
okay.
of everything in this movie. Like I said before, is mold and blood and guts
Dirt
and
lice.
turds and lice. But one of the problems I have with both this and the theatrical and the assembly cut is that what they're doing on this planet, because Charles Dance's line about why they have the leadworks is shouted in ADR.
I couldn't hear any of it.
Yeah.
Wait, what does he say?
He says, but basically what that translates to is they have a leadworks to help store toxic waste using the lead.
Oh, so like the toxic waste gets encased in lead and then it's no longer toxic because, well, lead's pretty toxic.
I was going to
itself.
say it's no more toxic than lead is.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, and there's a lot of stuff like that in this movie.
Oh,
where stuff just goes right over your head, and it's confusing.
Well, when they dump the like liquid hot lead onto the alien, and there's a bunch of like steam coming off of it, and they're breathing it, it's like they're dead in minutes. Like, this is over. But whatever. They're like, no, we're fine. They covered their mouths or something.
Yeah.
Should we try and summarize the plot? I mean, we're
Did we get through the
45
cast?
minutes in.
We have
Well,
more
we
cast
forgot-
We haven't gotten through anything that we've said we're gonna do.
We forgot there was two more big ones I think we should name. One is Lance Henriksen returning as Bishop, both the voice of the damaged Bishop robot and the character that I guess the Bishop robot was based on, a real scientist who's credited as Bishop 2. Lance Henriksen.
Yeah, it's very confusing.
Yeah.
I still don't know if that guy is a droid, or is a a robot, or a human. Even though you see blood, but his ear is like hanging off in such a weird
That
way.
is the grossest thing in any Alien movie. In all four of the original Alien movies, the grossest thing I've ever seen is half of this guy's ear get taken off with a pipe, like bludgeoned off of his head, and he doesn't seem to be bothered by it nearly enough. I assume he's in shock.
Exactly.
I assume he's in shock. I think like if an injury like that, I think if he knew how bad it looked, he would be freaking out way more.
Yeah.
Harris, he's in shock, much like the guy from Jaws 4 who got his arm bitten off and like didn't realize it at first.
Yeah, and has to like check. He's like, wait, is it in the sleeve somewhere? Yeah. And the last guy is Pete Postlethwaite in a fairly small role for such a prestigious British actor. But he's obviously from Romeo plus Juliet. The Usual Suspects is probably his biggest American role. In the Name of the Father. A bunch of others.
Lost World.
Lost World. Yep, Jurassic
This
Park.
is the leader, right? Oh no, this is the I know who you're talking about.
This is
You're talking about the guy who dies towards the end.
Yeah, the guy who's kind of...
he's in The Town also.
Yeah,
Have you guys seen The Town?
Yeah. He's the guy who's kind of... that was his last movie, I think, before he died in real life. In this movie, he's like one of the nicer, smarter prisoners. The one who explains to Ripley why they call 85 85.
Right, yeah. When Matt said... Unfortunately, when Matt said The Lost World is when I knew exactly who he was, which that movie is not that good, but he's the one who's trying to hunt the T-Rex in The Lost World.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes.
Who does the summary for this?
I do.
Oh, good. All right.
We
We do. Should I do both versions or just one?
I think
just assembly.
do the assembly cut.
I'd rather do the theatrical because I didn't get to watch the assembly like recently.
Didn't do all
I have
his
seen
homework.
it, but
all right, fine. Do the
I'm
theatrical.
gonna miss
do
details.
the theatrical,
Wait.
and then let's talk about the big scenes that exist in the assembly cut that don't exist in the theatrical.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
All right, you ready?
That's that's actually a really
Yep.
good idea. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, unexplained, there is an egg in Ripley's EEV that she's sleeping in. It breaks some glass. It gets cut, and it starts bleeding, and it causes a fire, which makes her pod like eject from the Sulaco from the second movie. Crash lands on Fury 161, which is a prison planet. Miraculously, it lands in the water, and she survives. Possibly because her DNA is stronger now that there's an alien inside of her, but I digress.
Spoiler.
So everyone else is dead. She's saved by a group of bald British prisoners who run this like leadworks facility that is long since shut down, and they are just kind of allowed to live the rest of their lives out there. They shave her head because there's lots of lice on this planet or something. She finds out quickly that there's an alien inside of her. There somehow is another alien. I guess there was a second egg, or like maybe that same face hugger like implanted an egg inside of a dog, even though it already implanted an egg inside of her, which we find out. Unclear. It bursts out of a dog, and now there's an alien running around this place, killing people one by one. She tries to warn them. She makes friends with a doctor who gets killed too early on. And then it becomes, okay, we need to first kill the beast before we can allow you to kill yourself, because she wants to kill herself in order for the queen inside of her to not gestate into a full-size queen, thus killing everyone. Meanwhile, the company, the evil company, is aware that she's alive and has a queen inside her, and they're getting there as fast as they can. So it's a race, to kill the alien and kill her before they get there. So they kill the alien at the end after it, of course, kills everyone except for Ripley and like one or two other guys. And they show up at the end and they say, hey, give us the alien. And she says, fuck you, no. And she jumps into the fire and kills herself. The end.
That's pretty good. Yeah, 2 minutes and 2 seconds.
That was,
I feel like I understand the movie a lot better now.
Yeah,
I kind of harped on some theoretical things there that are unexplained.
I feel like there's a lot of unexplained things. What do you want to talk about first? All the unexplained plot holes that aren't answered even in the assembly cut, or should we talk about the differences between the two cuts?
Let's talk about the differences, and
Yes.
I'll jump in first with that first thing that I said, that it always bugged me. So the lore that they've created about these face huggers is that they leech onto someone's face, they lay an egg, and then they die, right?
Right.
So now in this movie, they show us that there's an egg that's in the corner, like the ceiling corner of a room, which also, how did it get there? I don't know. The only rationalization I've come up with in my mind is that the queen from the second movie laid that egg there early on, and like we just
And they didn't
didn't
notice
see it, or
yeah.
like no one noticed it in the room. So then, and so then it implants obviously inside of her. Then the thing crash lands, but then it's still alive and it implants into the dog or the ox.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, the
like,
first thing that's interesting
we never
is
established that it can do more than one.
we don't know that
Yeah.
it implanted inside of her for most of the movie. For like, we're at least halfway through the movie, maybe more, before we find that out. And it's a really powerful scene when she because she's having these stomach pains. She's there's something wrong with her, and she goes and basically does like an X-ray or an MRI, a sonogram or whatever on herself with 85, and realizes that she's got an alien inside of her. And it's kind of heartbreaking. It's a really good, one of the best parts of her performance in this movie is that scene. But it's never, that's a big reveal, because until then, she suspected that this facehugger had implanted into Newt or Hicks, and we're sort of led to believe that that's a possibility when we see the facehugger on somebody, in the opening credits, because all we see is an X-ray. So it is kind of a reveal, even though by process of elimination we should know that it was on her at that point.
It's a little confusing because they try to throw you off by showing the facehugger break Newt's cryo tube. Yeah. So then, but then they show you the X-ray, and you could overanalyze it and say that doesn't look like a little girl's body in the X-ray. We're talking about the opening credits, which are where they try to basically reveal everything intercut with the credits, whereas a James Cameron movie would just shoot like a whole 30-minute introduction to this. But yeah, Hicks is impaled. His chest is ripped open, so you kind of it probably can't be Hicks. But this is subject to a lot of fan theory online. It's like, where did the egg come from? How did the alien get from one body to another? And
where did the second alien come from, and how did it implant something, grow it to full form before Ripley even realizes there's one in her that was implanted in theory before that?
Well, it's much like the JFK conspiracy, where there had to be a second shooter. There's got to be a second hugger.
Well, this is actually a magic a magic, like instead of a magic bullet, this is like a magic chest burster.
And to the
Yes.
left.
Back and to the left.
because the most official explanation you ever get is in the comic book adaptation, where this thing literally crawls out of Newt's mouth and swims over to Ripley and gets into her mouth. But that doesn't really.
That's not how they work.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Well, they say,
Well,
it's a queen.
Also,
That doesn't answer.
yeah. Also, they established that it's a queen inside of her. So we assume maybe this facehugger is a special one that lays queen eggs,
It has
or
to
maybe
be.
just
How do they even
every
know
other
it's
egg is a
I don't
queen?
understand how they know it's a queen. Do they ever explain that? Because I'm looking
Never
at the thing and
explained.
it just looks like the little chompy puppet like all the other ones.
That's what I was hoping from the assembly they would finally reveal that, because that's bothered me for about 30
because everyone
years.
seems to know it's like 85 is like, oh, it looks like a queen. You know, it's like everyone just like, oh, this is clearly a queen alien. We're totally familiar with the juvenile anatomy of queen aliens now. Apparently.
Yeah, everyone's an expert all of a sudden on this thing that's completely brand new. But
One
Matt,
line could have helped, like
Yeah.
just her saying, like, "Do you see this shape on the like?"
Right.
and like pointing to like a white blob on the thing, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, I see that shape. It looks
See the
like
thing
some
that
sort
looks
of
like a little
egg-laying
tiara?
sack." Yeah, yeah.
all they had to do
tiara.
was change the head. But
Yeah.
I mean, there again, like if you do the research, which you shouldn't have to do to understand this movie, two things. One is, in one version of the script, you see little white dots in the X-ray, which are supposed to be the eggs, like inside the alien. Okay. The other version, the other thing you learn is that, okay, they designed this different face hugger, which is supposed to be the royal face hugger, which is a different type of face hugger, which you'd never see. Only in the assembly do you actually see that it looks somewhat different, and you're way far away from it.
Yeah,
Is that when the
and
guy-
are we supposed to be experts on alien anatomy? And also, are we supposed to know how to read X-rays? I feel like this is asking a lot of us.
It is.
It's not even an
medically-
X-ray. It's like, it's not even an
But
X-ray.
then also, if it's a royal face hugger, why is the other alien not a queen?
Well,
Yeah.
this one can lay too. That's the explanation.
It lays a normal one and a queen.
But we as viewers should not have to try to figure out any of this stuff. It's just they didn't care. They didn't care. They were like, whatever, alien. Just two
I
of them.
kind of also don't care.
It's
wait.
funny how it's funny how usually when a movie doesn't want you to care about too many details, it just kind of moves on to some more action. And this movie doesn't want you to care about too many details, and it's just like, yeah, but now we're gonna pray, and Ripley's gonna fuck a doctor, and it's it's like it's not gonna. Don't worry, we're not gonna sweep you up in this epic. Like this movie isn't gonna pick up tempo until the last 30 minutes. Until then, we're just gonna have a lot of unanswered plot holes and a bunch of talking that does not answer them.
Yeah, like, don't pay attention to these details, and let me show you something really beautiful and depressing. Deeply depressing.
So, what are some of the other big differences?
we
The
talked
ox
about the
dog
ox,
thing,
so,
yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Which I think the ox is kind of a cooler. I think that sequence. I mean, I know the dog thing is upsetting and kind of shocking, but the ox sequence I thought was just a cooler idea because it was like, oh, this is a big ox, and it could have a giant alien in it. And then when it actually busts out, I thought that was really a nice, fun. When it busts out and attacks the one guy, I was like, oh yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong if you guys read up on this, but my guess for why they changed it to a dog is because they wanted to make I'm guessing they wanted in the edit to make the beginning go faster and thus, like, lose all the outside shots. So they lose all the shots of oxes. And so if it were an ox, you would be like, why the fuck is there an ox there?
That's exactly
that
it
has to
wouldn't
be
make-
it.
Well, that was part of it. It was also they said this thing moves super fast. It's more like a dog or a big cat than a big lumbering ox. But it makes no sense that in whatever future world we're in, that we're still relying on ox technology to get stuff moving around. I mean, it's probably again a callback to this movie being about monks.
Can
on
we
a
call
wooden
it?
planet?
Can we call it oxnology?
Yeah. I do like how there's a bunch of lines in the script about how, like, this place was once highly technologically advanced, but now has been sitting for a long, long time, and they, like, only sort of know how to use it.
Yeah, I love all that.
Have any of you guys ever seen? I think it's a Russian film called Hard to Be a God. Came out maybe like 5 years ago.
Is it a porno?
No, but that's a pretty good. I think it's a good spoof.
That's hard as a guy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this movie is all about these scientists who go to live on a planet or go to study a planet where they're like, it's a different planet that's been like, I don't know if it was intentionally colonized by humans, but they're basically in their dark ages. So it's like it's sort of like a Star Trek episode of like this medieval world, except it's a medieval world that incorporates like some new technology because people from more technologically advanced societies have gone there. But it's also like
awesome.
All the grossest parts of the Middle Ages. Like everything there looks disgusting. There's like disease. Everything is like, like it's not even like steampunk. Everything is like oxnology. Everything is their currency system is also oxen based. And then you have these scientists who basically show up there to study them and then end up just living as like gods because they have like slight technological advantages over these people. So they end up becoming basically the royal family of this society.
Wow.
It's very dark and weird, and it's all black and white. It looks nasty. It's very gross.
Well,
but it's in Russian?
Yeah. I think it's Russian.
I don't go to the movies to read, okay?
I don't go to the movies to watch Ruskies. Bunch of commie propaganda.
I think if it has a sequel, you guys should definitely do this film.
Yes.
A whole series.
Harder as a god.
Harder as a god.
Yeah,
hard to be a god
day,
too.
Yeah, a good day to Oxhard or whatever.
Good day to Oxhard.
Just because I just saw it, I'm playing the movie now. I wanted to mention that this has maybe the most iconic single shot in this entire franchise, which I think is ironic because this is one of the two movies that's looked on as sort of the weak points of the franchise. But there is the one shot of her
when they're about to cuddle.
Yeah, exactly. When they're gonna make out, when the alien literally comes up to her face and she turns her face away and it like gets right up in her. That's like honestly one of the first images that pops in your head when you think about the Alien franchise. And
True.
It's and it's from this movie, which is, I mean, if nothing else, they got that one in.
Yeah,
Point for Alien 3.
It's like when you wake up and your dog or cat is right in your face, sniffing your morning breath or telling you it has to go take a piss.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm watching that same scene or the scene right before it, I think. There's a really cool shot that's not in the theatrical, and it's when right before the doctor gets killed and the alien is showing up, and the only one who sees it is Paul McGann with his bloody face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you see from a shot from underneath a bed, and like all of a sudden, like something really heavy is like pushing the mattress down, and it's like coming down. That shot is so cool. I'm so annoyed that they took that out.
I love how they shoot that in the assembly cut, also because we know that this guy's really insane, and sort of the way they shoot it is all the shots where the alien is about to show up are next to the shots of him. So it's like a little bit suggestive that maybe this guy is hallucinating this, but then there's like a little tension built that way. And then at some point, like, oh no, he's not hallucinating it. And like Ripley's about to like see that this guy's going to get killed, and then he gets killed,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, I know David Fincher has like disowned this movie, but I think that this movie, I mean, granted, I've seen this one probably more than any of the other ones, but there's so many shots that are just like burned into my brain from this movie, which are really good shots. And really, like you said, the production design is really cool. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here which I think I remember just as well as, the first chest bursting death in terms of like the impact it had on me.
I mean, the cinematography is really cool. Like the shaping of light is like really interesting. It's a lot of that stuff is the stuff that's like almost all orange, but it still looks really cool.
Mm-hmm. It's he's a very visually assured director, and you see that right now, in this movie, which is his first film, but it certainly doesn't look like a first film. And honestly, for the scope and the scale and the stakes that we're riding on this, it's amazing that they even let a music video superstar who was thought of as an up-and-comer direct something this big.
Well, it was obviously to control him.
Yeah.
He had no power.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I also love the way this movie is shot, like framing-wise. It's like, it's always shot, the camera's very low and it's pointed up. I feel like you're looking up people's nostrils, like for the whole movie. But it really works, and it adds like something, and it makes like the visual style of this movie is burned into my head. I always think of like you're seeing the ceiling all the time, and that's kind of cool because like the alien does drop down from the ceiling in this movie quite a few times. So it's like we know now that the alien is like usually up in the rafters kind of thing.
There's no air conditioning ducts in here. There's only one way in and one way out.
They have a that sounded like a Sly Stallone impression.
I know. It was supposed to sound like Charles.
Now,
Dutton,
yeah, if he was on the prison planet,
5 foot nothing.
All right,
5
so
foot nothing.
the alien arrives on the planet, and it's the same prison that Tango and Cash are in.
Oh yeah, obviously.
They're showering.
Oh, can we get a Tango and Cash alien crossover, please? Thank God. Will somebody respond to my many, many letters?
Please respond.
While these guys are still alive, this has to be done.
Yes.
It's
an alien.
I think a lot of that is just like it makes the low ceilings in this movie seem that much closer to everybody's head and a little more oppressive. But then the high ceilings, which there are many, you see all the places the alien might be. You know, like it's just constantly networks of catwalks and ducts and ledges and levels everywhere. And the sets here are massive. They shot it on the Bond stages at Pinewood, and basically just had enormous, huge sets.
I think there's like there would be a great comedy version. There's all those scenes where they're gathered in a big group, like talking to each other, to just like cut in the alien is actually there eavesdropping, like in plain sight, but they just don't notice.
Just like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You think that's gonna work?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Like the legs of the folding chair are like buckling underneath it as it just sits. It's just sitting at one of the cafeteria tables.
Yeah.
Has anyone noticed?
I concur.
Yeah.
They're like, wait, who are you?
Well, he kind of does that when he kills the superintendent, who I think is the most annoying character.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
That's a very satisfying death, even if it makes no sense that he just ran from the infirmary to that spot to eat again immediately. But.
Yeah. And that's another question I had. Is the alien just eating these guys? He's kind of like...
No.
Yeah, what's happening?
It's just murdering. It's just a murderer.
But
maybe this is a serial killer alien.
Yeah, it chews them, and it drags a lot of them away. It chews on dead ones, and it also drags bodies away to do something with them. So I feel like it's not eating them.
I have some thoughts. I'm gonna
shocking.
Yeah, I'm gonna say so we know that the face hugger in the beginning is like a special face hugger. So maybe
sort of we know that.
Well, we're
told that we've on in this podcast.
Yeah, we've assumed that because we wish to, and I think that it's important that we do that, and we're right to do that. So, anyways, if it's a special face hugger, maybe the reason it carries two is that the queen baby is always supposed to have like an extra drone, like right from the jump to like lay the scene, build the nest. Something
to protect
like that.
it, yeah.
Sure.
Right,
Good
yeah.
theory. Good theory.
So maybe that's what this one is, because usually, correct me if I'm wrong, the aliens will like almost murder the person and then like suspend them up in like a big thing of goo, so that other face huggers can use them, right?
Mm-hmm. That's
but there's no other. Yeah.
Happens, yeah.
I think cocoon and thing of goo are comparable. Yeah.
There's a lot of goo. Yeah, it's gooey.
Yeah, and we know that this alien is protective of Ripley because that's how they fool it at the end with Charles S. Dutton when they learn that as soon as he starts trying to drag Ripley away for her own safety, the alien starts to pursue them to try to save her, which is kind of I thought that was a fun twist.
Which maybe is the only motivation that it has, because this has also bothered me for 30 years. Is like, okay, if you've destroyed the previous nest in Aliens, what is the point of starting a new nest if you're going to kill everybody on the entire planet? You have no way to start your family over again. The only thing that makes sense is that she's in a place of danger, and that this thing is just reacting to the fact that everybody wants to maybe rape her or kill her, and it's defending. But that is so far afield of what we get in the actual script.
I think it makes sense, though. I think we're given. I don't know. I'm going to argue on the movie's behalf that we're given enough information to jump to these conclusions. Although we do have to jump.
We see too many people though that get killed just randomly that don't get killed when they're even close to her. It would make sense if only the people that were interacting with her got killed. But it's
That'd
just
be a
killing
better
everybody.
movie, I think.
Yeah.
Well, wait, don't they say that the extra Y chromosome or like something with that like makes them more aggressive or something, right?
They do say that.
So maybe the alien just senses that.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes.
But do they say that in the movie?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
No.
You know what? They say it on Wikipedia. I was reading the like the plot summary.
Yeah.
And it's like the extra Y chromosome makes them hyper aggressive. But I was like, oh, they don't really say that in the movie, do they?
They say something about it. When she comes up to him and Charles S. Dutton is like, do you know where you are? Like, we're all rapists and murderers here.
He says,
we got
I'm a
Y
killer and a rapist of women. And she's like, I must make you really nervous.
Yeah, there's something like...
But they don't say anything
sometime around
about...
there, someone says double Y chromosome. Somewhere around there.
I don't know. I don't remember it. I feel like you might be remembering Wikipedia. What is the... here's my other thing. I think it's the guy who sets off the guy who ruins their plan. Dude, this bugs the hell out of me. The guy who ruins their plan of lighting the fire. I think it's in both of them. Oh. No, not letting the alien out. That's another thing we should talk about. But the guy who drops the fire stick, whatever those little sticks of
who refuses to walk down the ladder. He has to do it in the most awkward.
Also, refuses to keep the things in the fucking case that says "Do not jostle" until he's ready to use them. And so he does everything wrong. He almost drops the thing and kills everyone anyways. Like he came this close to almost killing everyone, and then the alien gets him and he does drop the thing and it sparks. And I feel like that's like almost like a double beat, like if he was that close to killing everyone anyways, all of a sudden I'm not feeling like the alien did that much, because one of these morons would have fucked it up eventually, like clearly they lacked the competence to.
Don't they have a shot of a guy like about to light up a cigarette right before that? When they're
she pulls it out of his mouth like, you idiot.
No, I think it's 85 pulls it out. It's like his one moment of intelligence. But I mean,
that's what's kind of funny about 85 is like we know he's 85 IQ dumb, but like it's very clear he's smarter than several of these motherfuckers.
Than all of them. Yeah, that's the whole thing.
I always felt bad for someone who had an 85 IQ who was watching this movie and maybe saw that and was like, that's me. But not speaking from personal experience. No, just
they're cheering for that guy.
yeah.
It's like, go 85.
But that is maybe a good place to talk about some of the changes, because this whole fire scene is really different.
Really different, yeah.
I don't know.
How is it different? Tell us, Matt or Sean. Not Harris. No, Harris you can too.
I've said enough.
So they're going to trap the alien inside this toxic waste thing. And they end up killing a bunch of these guys in an accident. The alien doesn't actually kill a lot of the guys. And it kind of speaks to one of my complaints about the film, that you don't get a chance to really know them, which you do in the assembly. One of those characters is the guy we talked about who is attempting to rape Ripley, the guy with the teardrop.
Right.
He ends up sacrificing himself. It's not shot super clearly in my opinion, but he ends up sacrificing himself to get the alien stuck in the toxic waste containment room.
Yeah, he runs into the room when it's chasing him, and he's in there with it, so he knows he's fucked.
Yeah, and that's a big part of his character, and then it's a big part of the rest of the movie, where she learns that the company really does not want this thing dead, because they send out a message and they say, hey, we've got this thing trapped. What do we do with it? Can we kill it? And they're like, do not kill, do not kill, do not kill.
Yeah.
Whereas in the theatrical, she just assumes, because of her interactions with Burke, that they're and in the first movie that they're just evil. So it's a little bit more clear what's going on, and it also explains a little bit why there's some scenes after that where they're much less nervous about the alien, because in their mind it's trapped. So I think it's one. I mean, along with the Ox thing, that's as big a change as there is, and Gallic, I guess, and because Gallic's the one who frees the alien.
Yeah.
Two things about this fire accident scene. There's the guy who drops the flare, and then he goes down to get it. There's this awesome shot that they cut out of the theatrical where it's like below him looking up, and just past him you can see the alien like arrive.
Yes.
I think that shot's great. I don't know why they cut it. And then secondly, I always loved / hated the shot in slow motion when the flare like hits the ground. For some reason it's like super squished. It's like I don't know why
I was going to mention this,
but it's awesome.
I was going to mention this, and I thought this is too esoteric, but there are so many compressed shots in this movie where the aspect ratio is squished, and that one's really noticeable. But anytime there's an explosion, like everything is squished, and it's just weird, and I kind of love it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like weird. I don't like it aesthetically, but I also do love it.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like all the
because,
slow motion from this era too was always, I don't know what process they used, but all the slow motion from like, you know, you see it in like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is another example of, it's always like the shutter speed is off and it's like always darker, and it has such a distinct quality that for some reason every time I see like legit slow motion, not like slowed down frame, like Lethal Weapon style slowed down regular motion, that you always see like this change in the film stock or the quality, that I'm always like, oh yeah, I can totally tell when this was shot, because this is just what slow motion looked like in this time period, and kind of I'm nostalgic for it, even though it's almost distracting.
Well, it's a technical thing, right? Because when you're shooting slow motion, you have less time to expose the actual film cell to the light, and they're in the dark, like very specifically for this shot, and they want it in slow motion. So I don't think it was technically possible to make it look like it would look now, just because of how, you know, the camera works, basically. But I really like it also. I don't mind that it's squished. It just it really emphasizes that it's like about to blow up. I almost wish the explosion in the next shot was even bigger.
I don't understand why it's squished, but I don't mind it. I don't hate it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's also kind of a brilliant piece of editing, even though this movie is like slammed for its the theatrical version. How the character that you see who's dead on the floor after the explosion, they ADR somebody saying, "Oh, that makes about 10 that have died." That character who's dead is the guy who Gallic slashes his throat, and it's a completely different scene. And
right.
and I would never have known the difference.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't. But that's that. Gallic slashes the guy's throat after that.
He doesn't slash his throat at all in the theatrical cut. Yeah.
That guy who gets his throat slashed, it's like it never happened. It's like he died of burns.
Yeah,
but you don't
they stole the footage and ADR'd
that's
different lines over to explain something that they needed to explain.
Yeah.
So that's in the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
But in the assembly cut, that's like some other guy who died. He doesn't like come back, right? They don't have that.
No one
ADR.
comes back from the dead except Ripley and Alien 4.
I don't understand
Right,
the question, and I refuse to answer it.
Yeah, it's fine. I think I understand what's going on.
Yeah.
One dude, he dies of burns in the theatrical, and then in the assembly, there's a whole thing that happens, like a whole bunch of scenes, and then flash forward, throat slash,
right,
and he's dead on the floor, and then they truncate the scene. And it ends up with 85 in both versions saying like, "Well, I'm out of ideas," you know.
Right.
Like,
yes. Yeah.
And Boris's response is like, "Oh, there's a big surprise." It's quite awesome. But
I don't understand why they cut the scene of trapping the alien. I felt like that was like, there's stuff in. I get why they cut some of the stuff at the beginning, just because it starts so slow. I happen to really like that stuff. I think they should have left it in. I love the stuff on the planet. The ox, the dog, they're both fine. I don't really, I prefer the ox, but it doesn't really matter. But not trapping the alien, I don't understand, except to like make the runtime tighter. But in that case, there was so many other less valuable things I feel like they could have cut. Trapping the alien was such an important, interesting plot point. And it resolved so many of these other little things and fleshed out the stakes of the final conflict so much more. I'm at a loss.
The scene with her in 85 where because she does kind of know that they're gonna say not to kill it,
right?
But she's like, yeah, I want to kill it, and I want you to ask them to kill it and tell them we want to kill it. But
and 85's on board,
yeah.
until she tries to get them to cancel the rescue mission, and then he's like, whoa, let's not be crazy.
Yeah.
I had read that they wanted to cut that whole sequence out because they felt that it deflated the threat of the alien. That like with it being trapped in there for like a portion of the movie, there's no dread, there's no impending doom, like because that the alien is behind this wall that it can't get
free from.
Dumb note.
My argument to them is that, number one, it reduces a large portion of the last half of the movie into, let's try this. Oh, it doesn't work. Let's try this. It doesn't work. And then the other thing is, just like I said before, you get to know these characters a lot better. You get to differentiate.
And also, they let their guard down, which is they don't know there's a threat anymore when there's a threat again. You know, like the alien escapes.
The audience.
Yeah.
It makes us smarter than them for a second because we know that Galek is gonna do this, but like they don't expect it.
It's also like part of the whole thing of what's so scary about the aliens is that people will unwittingly help them. Like the company wants to keep them alive. That's not good. And then there's this insane guy who's like, "Oh, I'm insane. I think the monster is cool, so I'm gonna free it." Like that's scary as well, you know. That like, and especially that being scary added to the combination of the reduction of the tension of like, oh yeah, well it's trapped for a little bit, so we're chilling.
I want to talk about another scene that I find really, really annoying, it's only because it's cheating. There's the scene where she goes out hunting for the alien to get it to kill her, and she's got a pipe, and she's going through the darkness, and she sees the alien crouched in the shadows. She sees its big, shiny, round head, and its rib cage, and its arm, and she's creeps up to it, and she jabs it with her pipe, and it turns out it's just the elbow of a giant pipe that bursts open, and little lice crawl out. I shouldn't say little; they're giant,
huge, gigantic,
sized lice crawl out. Yeah. And then she runs into the alien seconds later, looking very much like an alien and not like a man in a suit. And we cut away, and we realize we only find out later that it didn't kill her, it didn't attack her, it's not going to kill her. I hate that.
Wait, doesn't she poke it with the stick a bunch of times and like fuck with it and like it runs away or whatever?
No, that's later.
No.
This is where we cut to black when it jumps down in front of her, and we're like, oh no, it's going to eat her, but it doesn't, obviously, because then she's talking to Charles S. Dutton alive in the next scene. My problem is, I've watched this, I've freeze framed it, I've done all the things. It's definitely the alien that we're looking at when she approaches it.
Oh, wow.
It's not a pipe. It isn't at any point a pipe, you know? Like, I just feel like you could.
But that's the point. That the point is that she sees it everywhere, and she even says it in the dialogue. Like, you've been in my life so long that I don't remember anything else.
Right.
Yes.
Like she just.
I don't see it
is
anywhere,
so hell bent on killing this.
I feel like it's. I mean, I guess we're in her point of view then, but I feel like it's a cheat. They should have just made a pipe that looked a lot like the alien. And
I love this as part of like the journey of the Ripley character, because in the first one she's like a really good leader and like much more competent and like really has her shit together, and then in the second one like she's also kind of on the, like making good decisions and trying to help these space marines, but they're like whatever, and by this point she's like, we're fucked, I'm fucked, I hate this, like make it stop. Like I can't do this anymore.
That would have been me in the first movie. I would have been like, okay, just kill me.
Get this fuck over. This, I'm out. I'm just gonna eject myself out the airlock if anybody needs
exactly
Yeah,
grab the suicide pills again.
She's a great character. I think so.
This is my least favorite Ripley of all four movies, not just because it's the grimmest, but she's also kind of a dick. She's like in other movies she's definitely smarter and more competent than other people, but she doesn't rub it in their face constantly. She has some like interplay ball busting with the Marines, but that's more like they think she's going to hold them back, and she kind of gives as good as she gets and earns their respect. In this one, she's definitely punching down to a bunch of morons who don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But
they are really dumb.
There's a part where 85 is like, no, we don't have batteries. I told you nothing works here. And she's like, do you have fire? Every human in history has had the capability to make fire. And he's like, you don't have to be a dick about it. I don't remember what he says, but he's like, yeah, but you don't have to be an asshole.
We have some flares.
No reason to be rude.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, good point, Ripley. Like, go easy. Like, come on.
Yeah. Like she used to have her shit together, and like the alien has like totally fucked her world up, and she can't be nice anymore.
Yeah.
I'm watching the scene right now where Galek he opens the door, and it's like bringing another point. It's making me realize this other point that one of the things that this movie always tries to, or all these movies try to show us, is that like human beings are the enemy. It's not so much the alien. The alien's just doing its thing.
but it's like always the human beings that like it's the Weyland-Yutani company that's like they're greedy and they don't care about human life. And then it's like, you know, obviously Gallic is like an insane person and he's like screwing everyone else there. And then in the second movie, what is it?
Burke.
It's it's Burke.
Yeah.
Burke is like
Paul Schaefer, right?
Not Paul Schaefer.
No,
Definitely not Paul Schaefer. Paul Reiser.
Fuck! Why? How did I do that? Damn it!
As soon as the alien pops out of somebody's chest, he goes da 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 da.
Playing the alien.
An alien popping out of the chest.
He's got a long jacket and sunglasses on. It's just like, I want to recast that. Can we do like a face swapping technology and put Paul Schaefer in the?
All right, so we got Tango and Cash meets the alien. Paul Schaefer's on the planet.
Yeah, Paul Schaefer playing the Weyland-Yutani Corp
The
exec.
company man.
Company man. Oh boy.
Oh man, I cannot believe I made that mistake. That's pretty bad.
I
Can't believe, it's an amazing mistake.
My favorite line in this movie, there's a few good ones, but my absolute favorite line is when the warden gets eaten. And it's like the whole thing where his legs are up there kicking and the blood's on the floor and all the guys jump up from the table and they're all like backing up. They're picking up chairs to get ready to defend themselves. And then like when all of a sudden everything's quiet for a second and one of the guys just goes, fuck.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was like, so geez, from your lips to God's ears, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that his little rubber ball that he's always squeezing drops down.
Yeah. There's like a moment of silence when nobody moves, and then just one guy just goes, fuck!
The one guy who picked up the chair, is it the same guy? I think it's a different guy, right? The guy who's like actually got a chair kind of in the foreground, and he's like holding it like you can see on his face, he's holding the chair for dear life, and then also knowing like this chair will not help me. Like this chair is not going to do anything.
For a movie that's like trash because of how its plot is like cut up so badly, and like, you know, they say that the editing in this movie is not great, and actually when you watch the theatrical cut, or at least when I watched it this time, I could feel like where the weird cuts were, and I was like, oh yeah, they definitely cut a scene out of there, I know, from the assembly cut or whatever. But having said all that, this movie has a lot of great scene-to-scene cuts that really work. One of my favorites is like right after the scene we're talking about, like, so the guy just gets killed and then the immediate next cut is a guy mopping the floor and he's like looking up, like that's the worst job.
They put the camera right where the alien was when they saw the alien kill someone. So
there's
good.
Also, I think Pete Postlewhite's death is quite well cut.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
You know, it's got a lot of great filmmaking just in the whole thing. There is one thing that, going back a few chapters to the assembly cut, that doesn't quite cut well, which is, and I believe this might only be on the Blu-ray version. That's to show how many cuts of this film actually exist. But in the version with the ox, and the character that first dies in the theatrical is the guy with the dog, and in the assembly he's like, "Hey, Spike, is that you?"
Yes.
And we have no idea what that is. Mm-hmm. So that one, probably they needed just to cut that little thing out to make it make
just
more
take
sense.
out the line.
But I'm kind of wondering if you only watch the assembly cut, like you're kind of wondering, well, what is Spike?
Well, yeah, it's his buddy. Maybe he thinks a guy's down there.
Is that his imaginary friend? I mean, yeah, it's.
I think that works. I only watched the assembly cut this time because I think it's superior, and I knew that he was like, I knew about the existence of the dog in the theatrical cut, so I knew what was happening. But I was able to suspend my disbelief and think like, oh, Spike is his friend, I guess.
I think Pete Postlethwaite's death has the same problem that the whole ending does for me, which is that, like, I don't know how the alien got from one side of the door to the other, because I don't understand where these doors are, where they go to, how the alien can travel in the ceiling, whether these doors can actually keep it out of places. It is all kind of crazy gibberish.
I like that.
Well, yeah, you're on record as liking crazy gibberish. That is not a shock.
Well, no, it works for me too, because they do a great job in both versions of establishing that these guys like don't know their surroundings. They like, you know, there's that scene where the candles are being blown out, and they're like, well, if the candles aren't lit, how are we going to know how to get back? Right. You know, like they don't know. It's a labyrinth of like whatever. They only really live in that like cafeteria and like the medical bay, and then like that big cathedral room where they all have meetings and stuff. Like that's pretty much their hangout, you know.
There's a great line that is cut from the assembly which I always loved. Normally when I can't follow an action sequence, I don't like it, but I agree. This works because it's like you're just as confused as they are. But there's a line I think that's only in the theatrical where it says, "Do you think this is going to work? Us running around the dock like this with this thing chasing us?" And at that point you realize like, yeah, no, this is not a good plan. But you're talking about Ripley talking down to the prisoners. She basically cons them into this ridiculous idea. She says to them, they're like, they'll be here in a half hour. Like, we're a half hour away from going home. And she's like, no, you don't understand. They're going to all kill you. And 85 says, that is ridiculous. They're not going to, this is nonsense. And I'm kind of on his side. Like,
oh yeah.
But again, like I was going to say this earlier, I think 85 is like the most sympathetic character because he says that line. He's like, that is ridiculous. They would not kill us. They're not like maniacs. And then at the end, he's killed by them.
Yeah, but he's killed by them when he almost knocks Bishop's ear off. Like the other prisoner who gets shot in the leg actually does, he's taken away. So in theory, he isn't killed right there.
If I'm 85, I'm sitting back. I'm like, just whatever happens. Just take me home.
Yeah, stay out of it.
But that's his arc. He's the company man. He's like the Burke of this movie. Like he could have just done that, but he tried to save her.
I'm kind of a Burke too. I'm kind of a Burke.
Also, I'm just going to go... I'm going to put it out there and say the one guy who does survive, I think maybe he does not go on to a better life than this.
I don't think that guy had a lot of great prospects to begin with. So, but it is a sign that, if they were going to kill him, they probably just would have killed him there on the planet where they could just say, oh, yeah, the alien did it. Who the fuck knows? They are going to bring him back somewhere.
Well, that guy... If you're interested, this guy, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you're looking at it, has a whole published memoir that you can buy. And you can read that guy's...
Whoa, the character or the actor?
The fake character has a whole memoir.
Yes!
What?
How many pages is it?
I haven't read it, but
I'm going to go out on a limb and say too many.
I'll report back to you. But you can read what happens to that character from his point of view, if you so choose.
Just a lot of prison.
After this movie? Like where they take him?
Yes, I think his name is Morse. I keep saying that. I could be wrong, but...
it is Morse.
Yeah, Morse. Morse's autobiography is published, and according to alien lore, censored by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation.
Oh, no.
Though some people who apparently have read it who are associated with Alien 4... But
What's the title of the memoir? Always Wanting Morse?
I think he's the one who says this line, so I think it's just called "Fuck."
Fuck. The life and times of Morse.
Yeah.
It's funny that actor really didn't. I mean, he seems like he's worked a lot, but he never really was in anything significant after this. I thought he was decent.
His face was so recognizable to me, but I couldn't realize I don't know him from anything else.
Yeah.
More than his face, the back of his head is super recognizable. It looks like someone took like a square object from inside his head and they're trying to like poke it out the back of his head. That's what it looks like to me. It's like this, like that size,
He's got a head burster.
It's very weird.
Yeah, a lot of
he's got like a head burster coming out.
Yeah, a lot of people got a little knob on the back of their skulls.
I like the barcodes on the back of everyone's neck tattooed. Cool. That's a cool. I feel like that's a sci-fi trope that has like gone on beyond this movie. That's been in other things now, right?
So here's the thing. When the doctor, Tywin Lannister, goes into the meet with the head honcho guy, and he's like, "Do you want me to tell her about your, background?" And he's like, "No, don't do that." But then he later does tell her about his background, and I get the feeling that, like, although he did kill 11 people, it's maybe not as bad as some of the other people that are in that prison.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, that's like that's a thing that they didn't really flesh out in this movie that well. That like, it's really about her arc of like learning to trust him, kind of thing, or have faith in him, even though he is like a criminal, just like everybody else in this place. Yeah. But it happens kind of quickly. I that's like my biggest bone of contention here is that character dies way too early in the movie. Because he's like the guy.
Because, like you said, it's an important part of her arc, but she never completes her arc. She never trusts him. She never tells him about the alien. He's right up to the end. He's asking her to level with him, and she won't do it. And I think that maybe helps when she trusts Charles S. Dutton later. But it's sort of like these two characters have a relationship that seem to be going somewhere, and then he sort of gets abruptly killed off in the middle, which could be kind of a switch, like a Samuel L. Jackson Deep Blue Sea moment. But it really doesn't. It's not executed to the way that it hits you like I feel like it should.
This is why I think the way that I watched the movie is the absolute best, because
drunk and high?
Yeah, but only from the point where like them two start working together, where Charles S. Dutton and Ripley or Sigourney Weaver. I got mixed up of character names versus actor
His
names.
name is Dylan.
Dylan and Ripley, when they start working together, like the movie really gets good for me. Like I don't know, like they're just like a ragtag team with like a bunch of psychos running around, and like he's got an axe. One of my biggest beefs with the movie is that he never gets a good swing of that axe in.
He drops it as soon as he sees the alien.
That's the biggest mistake I think in the whole movie.
Agree.
I really think so. Like if David Fincher was here now, I'd be like, why didn't he get a swing? Let him swing.
I feel like there were like 3 shots in the trailer that was Charles S. Dutton with an axe, and it's so misleading.
It is like the way he drops it. It's just so disappointing.
Also, every time she calls him Dylan, Dylan just sounds like a '90s teen heartthrob, like the cover of Teen Beat. It's Dylan from the '90s, and every time she says Dylan, I'm just like, I just feel like it's like a mom yelling at her kid on the playground.
I just hear Schwarzenegger, Dylan, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. Son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch. One small detail that I love. There's a lot of small details about this movie that I actually love, but one of them that I just saw is, so they tell the company that there's an alien, and they're like, all right, we'll be there in like 12 hours. And then she does the scan of her body, which automatically gets sent to them. And once they see that there's an alien inside her, they're like, yeah, we'll be there in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like they could have
so
been there
good.
faster initially, but they chose to let the alien like kill them all.
Yeah.
So that they could just get there and like collect the alien or whatever.
The company is evil.
Yeah.
They
really
either have really fast ships that we don't know about, or this is not really the ass end of space, but more like the ear end of space. Because they are there so fast. I did not remember how quickly they got there. They're like, yeah, we'll be there in a couple of days.
And they get a specific guy there too. Like they have a guy that they really want to be there, so Ripley can see a familiar face. So who the fuck knows where he is? They might have had to make a stop,
Yeah, no, the company's plan was to like let the alien kill as many of them as possible, so that they could like just arrive at a fresh crime scene and not even have to deal with these other people, because they're all criminals anyways. So like the company is like, these are not assets to us, these people. They're gonna like hamper, they're gonna get in the way of our plan no matter what our plan is.
I've kind of got a question about all the like 85 and the warden, the guys who are still working on, like the guys who are employed to work on this prison planet. Like what is their deal, and how I don't understand how much money.
I think their offenses are less like severe. Like they're like
No, they're not. They're not criminals. They're employees. They're company men. They're hired.
Yeah,
why does he say? Why does the 85 say that he like doesn't get to go home until this?
Because he's on a
point in time?
contract. He can't just like hop in his space scooter and head home for a weekend.
Oh yeah,
he's got to wait for them.
I think it's like the guys in the first movie who are like,
right.
Like,
but I mean,
what's his
space truckers?
Mr. Big.
Space truckers are way more interesting and fun. Like that I understand. Just becoming the space warden on a space prison in the middle of nowhere where, like, I don't know. It just seems like there's no amount of money that I think you would have to pull the warden from amongst the prisoners in reality.
No, in this society, like any wage is like, they're probably like kind of, conditioned to think like whatever wage is like, if you get paid to do something, you do it because that's what's supposed to happen.
$1 million space bucks.
Yeah. I mean, like it's definitely like an extremely stratified society with like a mega corporation, and then like it needs cheap labor. So there's gonna be people that are like, oh yeah, like we work for the company for like very little money. I don't know. It makes sense to me in the universe of Alien, especially after we've seen Yaphet Kotto's character, and I would even say the Space Marines.
I would rather be a space trucker or a space marine. I would not want to be a space corrections officer. That seems awful.
Well, look at the teeth. They're all British. They have amazing teeth. It's a dental plan.
It's
telling
a dental
you.
plan.
The,
That's
ben-
it.
the
Dental
benefits.
plan.
All about the
Obvious.
dental plan. Also,
Dental plan.
But if you
inconsistent.
look at the wealth difference, one of the things that's most noticeable to me is I just love how Lance Henriksen, when he finally shows up at the end, is dressed.
Mm-hmm.
He has on the best jacket, and he has 15 scarves on. And you
Yes.
know that guy is just bringing in the space bucks, just like you said.
Scarf budget.
Yeah.
I love his outfit, and I love the whatever those Marines are, or the
spacesuits?
heavily
Yeah.
armed guards. Yeah, those suits are so awesome. And the
science
Asian guy
guys.
who's got the
Yes.
reflective sunglasses. Yes.
Yes.
And the guy
science
with
guys.
the guy with the enormous camcorder.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. The future technology video recording takes
Yeah,
more than
VHS.
the size
Yeah.
of a VHS. It's
The same
6
thing.
VHSs.
It's like Betamax recording. It's in the future we go back to Beta.
It's not too different than my 13th birthday. What was recorded on that?
Yes.
I think there's a real inconsistency in this movie in how easily the alien kills people. Sometimes it seems to just bash them, one shot kill them in the skull, and then other times it's got to struggle with them. And Charles S. Dutton, we don't really see much of it, but he puts up a huge fight with that thing, keeping it.
Yeah.
Well, from what I can
he's talking a
understand
lot
is
during
that
it.
yeah.
the
He's
thing
talking
that
a lot of
kills
shit.
people, the way the alien can really efficiently kill people is with its little tongue thing that pops out and pops a hole in your head.
Yeah.
Yes.
If it can get you hold your arms down and just get to your head, you're dead. But otherwise, it has to struggle to get you
I love it.
in a position where it can kill you.
I love the deaths in this movie, and again, it goes back to my question: is it eating them, or is it just gnawing on them like a dog bone?
Unclear.
Because when it's biting down, it's making all those sounds.
Well, if you take the thing where the crazy guy, not the crazy guy, the guy who survives at the end, they've got that scene where he and the other dude are running through the tunnels and they accidentally crash into each other. The guy with the bandage on his head.
Oh
And they
yeah, that's a great part.
Crash into each other, and then they have a good laugh about it. And then the alien shows up out of nowhere and kills the guy, and we see that the guy is dead. His eyes are staring blankly because the alien has bashed his skull in. And the other dude is freaked out and starts crawling away. And the alien doesn't kill the other dude because he's munching on the guy that he just murdered. They're not even fighting.
Right.
That guy is a dead body, and the alien's munching on it till Ripley shows up. So I don't know.
It also grabs the body and takes it back with it.
Right? Yeah, it does that a couple of times.
To do
where,
what?
Where there's somebody's dead and the alien grabs the body. So who knows?
That's actually the death that I understand the least in this movie, because you see the alien's perspective coming down the hallway, and then all of a sudden it zooms and just rushes towards the guy, and all of a sudden his head he's bleeding from the head. So I don't understand what happened there.
We get a lot of alien
just
point of view shots in this too, tracking through the tunnels. I think that's the way to get around, not having to show it, but it is pretty effective. We see it's almost like the Evil Dead swooping shots flying through the tunnel.
Yeah, when it goes up on the ceiling and stuff, that's pretty cool.
I always liked that, but I was always disappointed because this was the first time we get its perspective. Mm-hmm. And after Predator Vision, I was like, what's alien Vision gonna be like? Is it gonna see your blood? But it's just a
what a dork.
Yeah, I was
normal people eyes.
Obviously, I was a huge dork back then, and now I'm just completely the coolest guy. But no, yeah, I mean, it's very much just like a fisheye lens. But I love that scene. It's really cool.
So, didn't we establish that the alien doesn't actually have eyeballs at all? So it's using some sort of sensory perception based on whatever its organs are. Maybe why its head is so shiny, right? Didn't we talked about this in the
It
previous
doesn't have
one, right?
eyeballs like conventional human eyeballs, but they function. Apparently, they must be there, and they must.
But
function
where
like
are
human
they in
eyeballs.
its head?
I don't know.
Because
I always just assumed they were behind a skin layer,
Oh,
its
okay.
eyes. It can see through its own.
Oh yeah, maybe it's
skin,
just one
if that
giant
makes any
eyelid
sense.
that never opens, but it's transparent.
I would love it if the
It's
eyeballs
transparent,
were on the little face inside the tongue, and every time you cut to its vision, it was just teeth, and that thing is trying to fight with the other alien, being like, "Please move out of the way, I cannot see. Open your mouth."
Open the mouth. This is mouth alien to big alien. Open the mouth. I don't know where we're going.
The alien's just constantly walking into walls.
I love this, but I think the theory about the shiny head encasing whatever its sensory organ or big eyeball thing. I think that's more closer to what we're supposed to believe. But I really like this idea about the the mouth fighting the other mouth,
and that they have some kind of internal communication device that he can just yell commands, basically but it only goes one way. It's only the small mouth that can talk, and he's just constantly complaining.
This is Little Chomp to Big Chomp.
Another element to add to our film with Tango and Cash and Paul Schaefer is this fight between the alien heads.
Yeah, we got to cast somebody
this
really.
This movie's really shaping up.
Yeah, we got to cast a really good voice actor to be the Little Chomp.
What will be perfect is that
it's me, Richard Dreyfuss.
Yes, perfect. Nailed it.
Richard Dreyfuss. I'm a little chomp.
Open the mouth. I can't see where it's going. You gotta steer this thing, man. I think it'll really meld well with Tango and Cash, because as I recall, the prison in Tango and Cash is also just rain and chains everywhere, right? It's like dripping
There's a lot of
water,
rain and chains,
pipes, fencing, and chains. I feel like they both had the same prison designer. Less spiral staircases.
Wait, you know what this movie could have used? Colin, how great would it be if, like, you were meeting all the prisoners, and all of a sudden, like, a new guy is being shipped to the prison. He's coming in. It's Charles Rain from Passenger 57.
Yes. Dude, yeah. For a second, I thought you were gonna do what's Nicolas Cage in Face Off? Castor Troy.
Castor Troy. Yeah.
I was actually thinking another prisoner, Steve Buscemi from Air Force.
Garland Green.
Yeah,
Con Air.
Con Air. There you go.
Yep.
Garland Green.
We're not in here with the alien. The alien's in here with me.
Yeah.
And then the alien eats him.
Honestly, we should get all of those, and Paul Crewe, Adam Sandler from The Longest Yard, and that would really round out that group.
And as our warden, Sheriff Brody, looking nervous, chain smoking, and drinking heavily.
Yes.
What a good prison this has turned out to be.
Pretty sure the alien's killing people. Oh, it's fine, Sheriff Brody. It's 4th of July.
What's your favorite death in this movie?
My favorite, I'll go first. My favorite death in this movie is what I think is the best part about the theatrical cut, Ripley's death. I love the chest burster coming out halfway down. I think it's brilliant. I think that's such a good part of the theatrical cut, and I'm amazed that's something that wasn't in the original script and wasn't in the original
yeah, did we nail all the big differences? We forgot to mention that.
Wait, assembly cut, she just falls into the lava.
Yeah, she just
not
falls
lava,
in.
the incineration burner or whatever.
Yeah.
It looks really bad, but the way I watched it, I was really stoked.
I think we got
shit.
We got most of the main differences of the theatrical and the assembly. I think is the autopsy a little more graphic in the assembly cut?
There is no autopsy, right?
No, in the theatrical.
The version I watched, the autopsy's there, and I was expecting it to be more graphic. It just turned out it was the same thing.
I think it's the same.
I might have watched the NC-17 version.
Yeah, I think I did too, because it was in that as well. But I think they cut it out of the original theatrical, right?
I think that might be right.
I was.
That's something I could have done without. I love the morgue set, but I really thought it slowed the movie down. That's something and it was gross, but like not a fun kind of gross.
And it's right in the first 10 minutes of the movie. Like, no one wants to, sit down in a movie theater, get your popcorn, and then you're watching a 10-year-old girl get ripped apart.
Yeah.
But I was just watching the assembly cut on mute, during this recording, and it escapes me if there was. I don't remember seeing an autopsy scene. Is it even in the assembly cut at all?
Oh, it's definitely in the
show
assembly.
In the beginning when they find the EEV, they show you Newt's body, and it's destroyed. It's you see her one part of her jaw over here and another part over here. She's ripped apart.
Yeah.
So how can they do an autopsy on her if she was goo?
In the assembly cut, he's like, she drowned. It's obvious she drowned, and they show a body, and then he does an autopsy on it. But they don't. The one I watched, they didn't show. They showed blood and stuff. He has to crack her chest.
Yeah, she's
and so
in
blood
one piece.
Yeah.
In the theatrical, actually, again, I think the theatrical is actually the more mean-spirited, darker cut. But when they show her, what I saw, and I didn't get as many details, but she definitely has her mouth open like she's screaming.
She's
yeah. And then Charles Dance has the line of
they can't
she's
hear
probably
that.
unconscious. He's just lying to her.
Right.
She was painless, quick, no big deal.
Oh my God, I'm watching the bishop ear thing. Oh, it's so gross.
Yeah.
It's weird that he loses an ear, but his robot iteration also had that ear thing going on in the same movie.
Yeah.
My favorite death, I think, my favorite alien death is when Pete Postlethwaite is like looking through the window and then it drops behind him. I love that. And he turns around, he's just like, I'm fucked. Yeah. But I think the gorehound in me loves the fan death also. Like the guy in the very beginning. Oh. It's just so ridiculous. And I also love that cut. He like explodes, boom, and you see guts, and then it just like hard cuts to Ripley waking up from a dream.
Yeah.
I love that. I just think that's cool.
So when we're picking favorite death, does it have to be one of the humans getting killed? Because I think the hot lead thing is fucking cool.
That's
yeah,
a
it's
good
really
one.
clever.
I always like that.
Is
that possible?
I don't know.
They explain it by showing a bucket pop open like early in the movie.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that bucket.
Yeah, that's good plant and payoff. But also, wouldn't the guts inside the alien that are all acid still be acid, and wouldn't they just explode everywhere and get on everything? I don't know. I feel like that would be.
Yeah, but it was like far away from everyone.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, I don't know if it was, but
I mean, I don't know if it was. I think like them just being in that room, even though it was a big room, but they're in the same room with like molten lead being poured everywhere and like steam coming off of it. That doesn't seem a very livable environment to me.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
there's
a lot of good lines in this movie.
Like if you have molten lead and like steam is coming off of it, doesn't that mean you're getting like aerosolized lead particles in the air?
Probably. I don't know. I mean,
maybe it's the future, Colin. It's like different kind of lead. They've mastered that.
I don't know if it's going to kill poisonous. You right that moment. It's probably just going to make your kids dumber. Sean, did we get your favorite death?
Okay.
No, I'll go with mine. I think all the ones you mentioned are great. I want to throw honorable mention to the death that Gallic witnesses, where he gets the blood on his face.
Yeah.
That's a very cool shot. The guy looks like his neck is like broken open. But I think Harris, I love the alien dying because, especially in the dog death version, you really hate this alien so much and you're so happy to watch it blow up. But Harris, I think you're right. Ripley's death with the chest burster is so great. And I remember when this movie came out, I had a babysitter who came home and I was like, so she had seen it. So how was Alien 3? And she's like, oh my God, I hate it at the very end. An alien bursts out of her chest and she holds it like a baby and falls into the fire. So this
is so good. What you're doing right now is
I love the voices. I love that you had a different accent when you were younger. Perfect.
Well, I was, I grew up in the South, so but it was awful and it was just terrible. And I was like, wow, this really she ruined the movie for me, and it really made me, So I knew that going in and watching this movie when I was very young that she was going to die. And it was always kind of frustrating, much like the death of Newt and Hicks. But as I've gotten older, I just think it's beautiful, and it's like the perfect ending for her. And the assembly cut where it just looks really bad and she falls into the fire is just anticlimactic for me. It should be about Ripley and the alien, going down together the whole way.
It's like the perfect little button, to the story. Yeah.
I mean, either way, it is pretty cool that like the way she does it, like she just kind of like leans back and like really that look of acceptance of I'm about to get incinerated by extreme heat.
But yeah, there's something satisfying about seeing the alien action, because when you just see her get killed, it's kind of like, okay, she killed herself to save whatever, I guess, whatever. But when you actually see that she's taking the alien down with her, and you get to see the alien, you're like, yeah, fuck that alien.
Yeah.
And how close she came. Like, had she waited another 5 seconds, like it would have burst out of her, and that's the end.
Doesn't she like spread her arms for like the Jesus metaphor a little bit in that as well?
No, she holds it.
Yeah, she grabs it.
Well, I know, but like
she does cradle it like a baby.
In the assembly one, isn't she doing like the Jesus thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. So that's the problem, is you guys don't love Jesus.
Maybe that was the problem. Maybe that was the problem that babysitter had. It's like, I missed the Jesus element from this film.
Yeah.
But that
needed more Jesus.
That baby chest burster crying and screaming as it gets burnt to death is just so awesome and satisfying.
Yeah.
There's another cool death in the hallway scene at the end when they're all running around. There's a guy who's got a flare, and he turns and the flare like crosses frame, and then as soon as we're able to see again down the next hallway, the alien is right there, and it's like, roaring at him, and it just cuts to his face. He looks like Spike Jonze, and he's just like.
Once again, there's some good surprise jump scare shots, but not a lot of good. I think not as much good build up to something where like, ooh, something's gonna happen. There's some, but not as much as I would have liked, considering what they seem to be going for. Should we do a quick top 4?
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
You're running it.
Yeah, I'll run it. So we're gonna do David Fincher, and so what are David Fincher's? So Sean, you've done this before, right? Or have you?
I have not done this before.
So we're just looking for the top 4 films according to IMDb. Don't look them up. What are David Fincher's?
I thought this was going to be my top 4.
Yeah, no. What are David Fincher's top 4 films according
don't
to
care
IMDb?
what you think.
Just give me one, and we'll just do this round robin style.
Okay. Should I start?
Yep, you start.
Okay, Zodiac.
Yep.
Who's next?
Hold on,
Matt
let me
or
cue
me?
up the sound.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there we go.
Ooh. Wow. Sorry, I don't know. The sound really excited me this time.
Wait, you said Zodiac, and that was right?
Yes.
That's an awesome movie.
Okay, great.
I'm not.
Yeah, I love it.
I'll go on record as saying I'm not the biggest David Fincher fan, but that is it's a Wikipedia type movie that we get a lot of these days, but it's a really good Wikipedia movie.
It's too long, but
Of course.
it's too long for me to really like for it to be one of my favorites of his. But it is really good. It's probably his most accomplished and most impressive in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I thought Mark Ruffalo was very good in that one.
Wait, whose turn is it? Yours or mine?
I don't know, so I'm trying to figure that out.
Why don't one of you just go, and that'll be the person whose turn?
I'll say 7.
Yes.
Oh, damn. Okay,
Wait,
Mank.
No. Way to go out on a limb. Wrong. I was going to say we're basically chalk so far, but Colin's picking an underdog.
Damn it.
All right, back to you, Sean.
Of course.
Oh,
I
okay.
fucked it
So
up.
top 4 Finchers. Fight Club.
No.
Oh, that was my guess. You can't take that.
Wrong.
Oh,
Wow.
That's a surprise. That's an upset.
All right, I'll say Social Network.
Yes.
Oh shit. Is that 4? Are we done?
That's 3. That's 3 because you've gotten.
Oh,
2
are we on the hint round?
No, we're not on the hint round.
Oh,
You have to guess, and then we'll be on the hint
You guys
round.
took my guesses. Fight Club 2, The Fighting.
No.
Wrong.
Geez, what's a good hint that won't just give this away?
well, I can guess. I can
Okay,
guess.
just guess, because yeah.
Girl with
Don't
a Dragon Tattoo.
Nope.
Wrong.
He made that movie?
He did.
Yeah.
Oh man, I didn't know that.
I feel like I
Wait,
shouldn't
aren't there
give you
sequels?
I shouldn't give you guys a hint because this is kind of don't overthink it. You'll get it.
Shrek?
I'll say Panic Room.
You overthought it a little bit.
Damn.
Wrong.
So did he do the sequels to Girl with the Dragon Tattoo also?
No, he didn't do the Swedish. He didn't do the Swedish version of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. He did the English version of it,
Oh.
the Daniel
Wow.
Craig version.
Yeah, Daniel Craig, he's very good. Shit. Fight Club 3, Project Mayhem
2.
Project Mayhem Returns. I don't know.
No.
Wrong.
No. You've only got a couple of Fincher movies left to guess from.
I
so.
thought we were
Yeah,
on
he
the
hasn't
hint
done that
round.
many.
Yeah, I don't know any more of them. Clearly,
There's only like 3 more I could think of, and
Okay.
and it's not. I'll give you a hint. My hint is it's not Alien 3. How about that? Now I've narrowed it down to like 2 movies, I think.
that's not a good hint.
All right, I'll go. It's my turn again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gone Girl.
Oh fuck!
I
I knew that movie.
The only one I could think
I
of
knew
that you
that
guys
one.
didn't guess was The Game.
Yeah.
And Curious
With Michael
Case of
Douglas?
Benjamin
Oh,
Button.
Benjamin Button. Yeah.
Oh, Benjamin Button. He did that. He did
Yeah,
that.
the dude's clearly a master.
You guys don't like Benjamin Button? I loved it.
I don't know.
He
I
ages
saw it in the
backwards.
theater.
I watched it backwards so it seemed more normal.
Yes.
All right.
Wow. Wait, I didn't realize those were all his movies.
He's pretty good.
Yeah. I thought he was all right, but I mean,
And he basically started House of Cards, the show,
Yep.
and
Oh.
Mindhunter.
Yep.
And he does that Robots one now, Love and Robots or whatever.
it's-
Love,
it's,
Death, and Robots,
yeah.
the animated
It's
thing?
not great.
He's
Yeah.
involved in that?
Yeah.
Wow. Alien 3 is still his best, obviously.
Clearly.
Love Alien 3. Of all those movies I just mentioned, I'm watching Alien 3 before any of them. So
Yeah.
I love 7. I think 7 is like just nailed it on every level, and I could watch that movie forever.
For Harris, that movie's a real 10.
Very good, Colin. Speaking of which, should we rate this bad boy?
Yes, we shall.
All right,
man.
Should we rate both the theatrical and the assembly?
I'm just gonna rate my favorite version, which in my mind is the theatrical the assembly with the theatrical ending. I have this amalgamated version of the movie in my head. No, I think this is a really good movie. Like we said, I think if it hadn't been tied to the first two, which are classics, and especially the second one, which is just one of the greatest of any kind of big Hollywood movie, sci-fi movie, action movie, sequel, whatever. It had a lot to live up to. It couldn't have possibly done it. It's kind of a mess. There was a lot of studio interference. I have a feeling that there is a better version of this that could have been made by Fincher and company, and they really didn't have a chance to do that. But all things considered, for a movie that he disowned, it's pretty entertaining. It's pretty good. It's very dour. It could have worked as a great... I love Resurrection, but it definitely feels like a finish line trilogy moment. So I'm going to give it a pretty sympathetic 6 Timothy Dolphins.
I'm just imagining like a quasi like Entourage type plot line, but it's like me who becomes the famous Hollywood actor, and I end up being in a David Fincher movie, and then I just won't leave him alone about how Alien 3 is my favorite, and
you get fired.
No, he won't fire me. Like, he has to. I don't know. It has to be funny though.
Well, I think it's already failed there. Do you want to rate this thing?
Yeah. I'm gonna give it probably a pretty good score.
Thanks for the teaser.
It's just, why does he have to drop the axe so early? The stuff he was doing with that prop, the axe, when he does the speech in the room, and he's like, "We're all gonna die. Let's go do this thing. Let's all go run around in the hallways, and we'll get them." That's not the lines, like, but the speech has a little bit of that vibe. And like all his monologues are really good, and he really carries that axe really well, and then he drops it, and he doesn't just get one good swing. Because, like, he wouldn't even have to draw acid blood, because that would introduce a whole, you'd need more special effects, and there's, like, that's complicated. But maybe if he
he does swing at Ripley when you think he's going to kill her. You remember that part?
Yeah, I remember it. But, like, that doesn't count, and you should know that, and I can't believe you said that.
I mean, he uses the axe. That's your beef, is that he never gets to use it.
So how many points how many points are you taking off for this axe thing, Colin? What is your Timothy Dolphin score?
If they were on the wood planet, so much more potential for that axe.
Oh my God, so much more.
That's got to be a holdover from the previous script.
Exactly.
Would I like to see that? You know what I'm saying? Because wood is a homonym for W-O-U-L-D. Okay, sorry. I thought Harris didn't get it for a second.
Oh no, Colin, your joke is barking up the wrong tree.
I tuned out long ago.
Oh man,
I'm just waiting for the dolphin sound effects so I can start paying attention again.
Come on, Harris. You gotta branch out with your comedy appreciation.
Maybe you didn't stick the landing of that joke, but it was rooted in good intention.
Hey, take it or leave it. These jokes
I would contribute, but I'm completely stumped. So.
Oh my God!
I'm
Sean Jarrett.
I'm pining for a better podcast.
Ooh, pine. I like that one. That was a real popular one.
All right, come on.
Did you get it? Poplar?
You son of a beach.
Oh,
Harris,
man.
you mighty oak.
Oh, I need to
all right.
I need to teach you guys a lesson.
How many dolphins, Colin? How many dolphins?
All right, I'm gonna give it 8 Timothy Dolphins, 1 point off because I'd like to see him hit the alien with the axe at least one time. Come on.
Or maybe a tree or something, if not an alien.
Or a tree,
piece of wood, yeah.
Yeah.
Sean, do you want to give it a shot?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, the first 30 minutes, if you can get by without killing yourself, and just don't watch Aliens and think about this movie. Think about, that has a happy ending and everything turns out great. But I really enjoy this. I will give the theatrical a 7 Timothy Dolphins. And the assembly 7.5 Timothy Dolphins.
So that rounds to 7.25 Timothy Dolphins.
Exactly, yeah.
All right. Let's see. So I clearly love this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I grew up with it. I think I'm in the same boat as Sean here, that like this might have even been the first Alien movie that I saw. I definitely owned. I know I owned the first 3 movies on VHS. I remember I was so obsessed with this movie and all the Alien movies that I tried to memorize all the characters' names. I wanted to know who each and every person was, and I would look at the credits of the movie and be like, okay, that's Dylan. That's I had all the names memorized,
like a boy band. That's Dylan.
Yeah.
And that's Morse. And Gulick is a sensitive one.
And I loved the convention of that they always refer to each other by last name, and it bothered me when someone's last name was a first name, like Dylan. But also, there's a guy in the 4th movie we'll get to. His name is Christy, and it killed me that they called him Christy because he was a tough-looking black dude and with dreads and stuff. We'll get to it in 4, but. Not only is his last name a first name, but it's a girl's first name. It really
He's so tough, he's got a girl's name, he doesn't even care. I liked it. I thought it was great.
He probably wears a pink shirt, too.
Yeah.
He has a horrible death in the a really lame death, I should say. We'll get to this in 4. But
what about
this movie? I think. What?
Sorry. What about
don't
former?
stop for him.
What about former NFL quarterback Doug Flutie? What if someone was being referred to as Flutie, as if it was their name all the time?
I thought you were going to talk about former NFL player Steve Christie. Now I'm so confused.
Oh yeah. Well, that's how I started thinking about it, but then I thought of Doug Flutie instead. What about other last names that are super difficult, like Biaka Batuka?
Yeah.
I would have loved a name like that.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool, and they'd have to say it over and over. There's a guy in Aliens named Wierzbowski, and they keep saying Wierzbowski over and over.
Oh
but,
yeah, that's great.
You never really see that guy. You just hear his name.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Anyway, let me get to my rating here.
Yeah.
So this is close to being a perfect movie. The assembly cut helps a lot. It adds a lot of things that were needed. Oh, and actually, I'm watching Bishop 2 right now, clutching his bleeding ear, which we don't see in the theatrical cut, so that makes him a little more human. I don't know what I like better, if he's a human or if it's actually revealed that he's also a robot.
Either way, he's still a slime.
Yeah.
We hate him.
Anyway, I don't know. I give this movie... I give Alien 3, the theatrical cut, 7.5 Timothy... no, I don't want to do half. I'll do 8. Full 8 Timothy Dolphins. And the assembly cut will be a 9 Timothy Dolphins.
Woo! That's a lot of Dolphins.
A lot of Dolphins.
All right. Well, so I assume that this is going to be licensed to watch, official.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I guess we should wrap it up. Sean, thank you for coming on. Do you have anything you want to plug? I know you've got something that by the time this airs will be out on Netflix.
Sure, yes. Check out Turning Point, 9/11 and the War on Terror on Netflix. Sometime in September it should come up. We're already probably past that point by the time you're listening to this. Just, when you Google it and you put in turning point, just ignore everything until you get to 9/11 and the War on Terror, because we don't want you just going to Turning Point USA or anything like that. But check it out if you want.
Nice.
Or don't. It's okay.
It's not okay.
This episode will come out on October 25th, so everyone have a happy and safe Halloween out there.
Absolutely. Watch out for the razor blades.
Yes, and the aliens.
And the COVID.
And the COVID-19, which is probably a bigger issue than the razor blades.
Yep, sounds like a real graveyard smash.
Wow.
I don't know.
Okay, do we have anything else about this movie that we forgot to say?
Why don't we just go out on
out
Colin's zinger there? We'll just cut it.
Was that good? I felt like I kind of wasn't even paying attention, and I just wanted to say a line from Monster Mash because I knew we were talking about Halloween, and now I feel like maybe it was even offensive. I don't even know. Like, did I say the wrong thing? I don't even know anymore. I'm sorry. Apologies to the listeners.
Oh boy.
I have one last thing I want to say, only because the fourth movie stops doing this, is that these first three movies did a really great job of like subtly planting like the Weyland-Yutani company. They never I don't think they ever actually say Weyland-Yutani. They just call it the company, and like you only see its logo subtly like written all over the place if you're really looking for it. They don't overtly say.
I think the second
company.
one has the most, where you see the most of that stuff, because she actually is in the building, and they're definitely.
But only in the longer cut. In the theatrical one, you don't see any of that stuff.
Yeah, I think you get one mention of it in this movie is where they actually name the company, at least in the theatrical version. But yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I always thought that was really cool, whereas like movies today aren't as subtle. They'll kind of spell it out for you, whereas here it's like it's there if you're looking for it, but it's not really super important. But it is the underlying theme of these movies. And like the fourth movie, I think they say like Weyland-Yutani doesn't exist anymore or something. They just kind of whatever. It's just like future company. They don't fuck the fourth movie. God damn it.
so much hate for that masterpiece. I don't understand it.
We'll
get to that. All right.
I think to take us out, Colin, can you do that alien sound effect that you cringe from?
Oh fuck! Hold on.
He's got to get ready. It's a process.
Hold on,
Getting into character. He's about to burst out of an ox.
His head is between his knees right now, and he's doing deep breathing.
It's really quite a sight if you could see it.
He's not wearing pants.
It's beautiful, much like this movie.
But he's actually not breathing. What is he doing? His head is moving up and down, but he's not breathing.
For you guys to stop talking.
Wow.
You have a
All right, that's it.
Happy Halloween.
Guys, thank you for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe if you like this show. Tell all of your friends about us. Tell everyone you know, even those weird family members that you don't like. Thank you to our wonderful guest, Sean Jarrett. And as always, thank you to Chris Morocco, a.k.a. C-Rock, for providing music to the show. Please remember to check out his new EP, Alien, which he did exclusively for this show on Bandcamp. Just search Chris Morocco on bandcamp.com. If you like this show so much that you want to hear even more exclusive content from us, then please subscribe to our Patreon by going to patreon.com/L2W and subscribe for just $1 a month. That's all it costs. If you join, you get instant access to over 30 shows of us covering non-franchise classics. It's probably even more than 30 shows at this point. I don't even know. I haven't counted them. But we put out a new episode every month, and we cover crazy movies that you love. So please sign up today. Again, that website is www.patreon.com/L2W. This show is a part of the Fandom Limb Podcast Network, so please be sure to check out some of their awesome shows. And join us next time for the last Alien film, Alien Resurrection.